This is between her and me. You can ask her what she wants, Jenna said, her gaze cool. I have nothing. Are you really worried I'm going to hurt her? It wasn't Jenna's intelligence they were worried about. She wasn't a threat to Cora in that sense. But you can't be too careful. Sometimes a stray dog will bite you even if you haven't done a thing to provoke it. Mr. and Mrs. Vance exchanged a look, finally agreeing to pass the message to Cora. You've hit me. You've yelled at me. Can I go now? No, her father said, his tone unyielding. You're not going anywhere for the next 2 days. You'll stay right here in this house. Jenna scoffed internally. Does Cora even agree to me staying here? Cole and Cora moved out for a few days. So that was it. They weren't living here, which is why she was allowed back. The constant comparison was a fresh wave of disappointment. It felt like a sharp stone was lodged in her throat, one she couldn't swallow or cough up. It just sat there, dry, aching lump, and she could almost taste the faint tang of blood from the back of her throat. Jenna lowered her eyes, fighting the sting of tears. After a long moment, she nodded. Where am I staying? Her mother spoke. We've had your room prepared. It's the same one as before. Fine. Jenna turned to leave. This time, her parents didn't call her back. She walked up the stairs, pausing when she passed Cora's room. She looked at the closed door, and for a fleeting moment, she wanted to grab the handle and push it open. Jenna fought the impulse, forcing her gaze away. Her room was the one with the best sunlight, the largest in the house. The decor was exactly as it had been 5 years ago. Nothing had changed. Even the sheets and duvet were the same shade of pink she had always loved. Her eyes scanned the bookshelf, and she pulled down a photo album. It chronicled her entire life. A baby in a stroller clutching a bottle, held in her mother's arms, perched on her father's shoulders. The faded photos sharpened in her memory as she flipped through, watching herself grow from a stumbling toddler to a girl running freely, from babbling noises to a constant stream of chatter. Clothes that grew smaller, shoes that grew bigger. She used to fit perfectly in her mother's arms. Now she was taller than her. This album used to have pictures of her and Cora, too. But 4 years ago, she had either burned them or cut them to pieces. All that remained were a few blurry images in her mind. As Jenna had walked away, her mother's eyes had followed her until she disappeared up the stairs. Eleanor stared at her own palm. 10 minutes had passed. It was still burning. Her fingertips trembled. Were we too hard on her? Robert placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing gently. What we can't teach her, the world will. The things we can't bring ourselves to say to her. She'll hear far worse if she makes a mistake out there. He even felt he hadn't been hard enough. If he had just been stricter with Jenna when she was little, maybe she wouldn't have become this person. When a child has problems, the parents bear the primary responsibility. Robert Vance admitted his failure, his disqualification as a father. He admitted his parenting couldn't compare to his own father's. Thinking of his late father, Robert sighed, and the lines on his face seemed to deepen. Alfred came to tell him dinner was ready. Without Cole, Cora, and Leo, the table felt unnaturally quiet. The chef had prepared a magnificent spread, the steam and aroma filling the house. But Robert looked from one empty chair to another and found he had no appetite. After a moment, he ladled half a bowl of soup and just left it there. Alfred, go, and asked Jenna to come down for dinner. Of course. Alfred had worked here for many years. When he'd first started, Jenna was still in elementary school. When Robert and Eleanor were too busy with work, it was Alfred and the other staff who would take her out to play, help with her homework. He had even attended a parent-teacher conference for her. He had, in a way, watched her grow up. The butler went upstairs and knocked on her door. Miss Jenna, it's time for dinner. The chef made your favorite seafood stew tonight. Please come down and have something. There was no sound from within. Considering the door was soundproof, Alfred leaned in and knocked again. Miss Jenna, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. You have to eat something. It's a long night. How about just a little? A bowl of porridge? If you don't want to come down, I can bring it up to you. Alfred was still coaxing her like a child, just as he always had. Jenna didn't answer, and he took her silence as acceptance. After letting Mr. and Mrs. Vance know, he got a bowl, filled it with porridge, and added some of the side dishes Jenna liked. The bedroom door wasn't locked. Holding the tray, Alfred announced, Miss Jenna, I'm coming in. He pushed the door open gently and walked inside. Jenna was sitting on the rug, still flipping through the photo album, completely unresponsive to his presence. Alfred looked at the album on the floor. Isn't that the picture from when you went to the amusement park with Mr. and Mrs. Vance for your 9th birthday? Jenna's hand froze. How do you know? Alfred set the tray down. In the years you were away, Mrs. Vance would often look through this album. She'd talk about you the whole time. Jenna always felt her parents were biased, that they didn't love her enough. But in truth, during her years abroad, They had constantly asked for news about her and made time to visit her every year. It was Jenna who had held a grudge, who rarely called, who never offered a word of concern. "Miss Jenna, they do care for you," he said. He wasn't one for pretty words, and some things couldn't be explained, only felt. In his view, Mr. Vance had done his absolute best to lift her up. Mrs. Vance and Mr. Vance aren't as healthy as they used to be. Mrs. Vance has trouble sleeping and has so much gray hair now. And Mr. Vance has all sorts of minor aches and pains. For the past few years, it had been Cole and his family who had shouldered the burden, looking after their emotional and physical well-being. Jenna closed the album and looked up. "So, you also think it's all my fault? That everything bad that's happened is because of me?" Alfred sighed and pointed to the album. "When you look at this, do you feel nostalgia or resentment? Do you see something beautiful or something ugly? The answer has always been in your heart. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. I'm saying it in the hope that you can love them. Love them the way they once loved you. Life is short, after all. You never know if tomorrow will come, or if an accident will come first." Jenna pressed her lips together, not responding. Alfred didn't know if his words had gotten through to her. He picked up the bowl of porridge and held it out to her. "The chef we have now is new. He's only been here a few years. He doesn't know what you like to eat. And he certainly doesn't know that you don't eat scallions or cilantro." The unspoken question hung in the air. Who, then, had reminded him to prepare an entire meal without those ingredients? The answer was obvious. Mr. Vance relayed his conversation with Jenna to Cora over the phone. "I'm planning to send her abroad, and she's agreed. But before she goes, she wants to talk to you." His tone shifted. "Of course, if you don't want to talk to her, that's fine too. We can talk," Cora said, her tone breezy and indifferent. "But I don't have time these next few days." Of course, she had time for a simple conversation. This was a transparent excuse to give Jenna a few more days with her parents. After they talked, she would be gone, and who knew how long it would be before she returned. Her father understood. "You're busy, I know. Any time is fine." "Good. I'll let her know when I've worked it into my schedule. Are you all settling in at Clearwater? How's Leo?" Mr. Vance was clearly missing his grandson. Cora heard it in his voice and immediately called Leo over. "Leo, come here. Talk to Grandpa and Grandma for a minute." "Coming." Leo's voice chirped from a distance, and he came running over, clambering onto Cora's lap. Cora switched to a video call and handed the phone to him. "Grandpa." Leo took the phone and sat on a nearby chair. Seeing the two of them happily engrossed in conversation, Cora stepped away to relay the news to Cole. Cole was still fiddling with the safe. When Cora mentioned Jenna, he looked up. She agreed to go abroad? What choice did she have? We warned her before she came back. She chose to ignore it. So, she has to face the consequences. Cole was just surprised at how quickly and decisively her father had acted, resolving the issue in less than a day. Hearing that Jenna wanted to speak with Cora alone, he frowned with concern. "You don't think there'll be any trouble?" Cora patted his head, ruffling his hair like she was petting a dog. "Relax. She couldn't get the best of me before, and she certainly can't now. A person's IQ doesn't change that drastically in 5 years." She looked at the safe on the table. "I thought you locked it already." "I did," Cole replied. "Then what are you looking at?" "I'm trying to remember what passwords I might have set." The notebook next to him was filled with his guesses. An 8-digit password wasn't easy to crack. Cole had a habit of setting passwords related to the person involved. His own bank cards were usually tied to his birthday. The one he set up for Leo was based on Leo's birthday. If the contents of the safe were about him and Cora, it was likely a date that held special meaning. And there were so many of those. The day they got together, the first time they slept together, their wedding day, the day she got pregnant, the day Leo was born, Leo's 1-month celebration, their first anniversary, Leo's first birthday. Anyway, the safe allowed 3 attempts per day. He'd just try 3 times every day. Eventually, he'd get it. Wednesday was the charity gala. Cole had seen it on his schedule over the weekend and noticed, coincidentally, that Cora was also on the guest list. A gala meant they wouldn't be home to put Leo to bed. So that morning Cole had called their driver and arranged for Leo to be dropped off at his grandparents' house. When Mr. Vance heard his grandson was coming, he insisted on picking him up from school himself. On the night of the gala, Cora wore a floor-length gown of a heavy, wine-red fabric. The color made her skin look exceptionally fair, like a single red plum blossom in a field of snow. The form-fitting dress accentuated her figure and elegance, outlining a perfect silhouette. She stood there, poised and elegant, a captivating vision of multifaceted allure. Her waist-long hair was pinned up with a hairpin, a few loose strands framing her face. Cora slipped on her heels and twirled in front of Cole. What do you think? Cole's eyes roamed over her, from head to toe, finally landing on her ankles. Beautiful. Such a flat reaction. His reaction was flat because he was using every ounce of his willpower to suppress himself. If he didn't, they wouldn't be leaving the house tonight. Ever since they had crossed that final line, it was as if they couldn't get enough of each other. Every time Cole looked at Cora now, he was like Daisy spotting a bone. He'd wrap himself around her, hold her, kiss her again and again. There were still a few faint marks on Cora's body. She had covered them with concealer. You couldn't see them unless you were looking very closely. This wasn't Cole's first time at this kind of event. When he was Cora's assistant, he'd often accompanied her to major functions. Inside the banquet hall, lights swirled as the host gave a speech on stage, welcoming and thanking the guests. Cole could clearly feel that from the moment he and Cora appeared, they had become the center of attention. The noisy room had gradually quieted. As the crowd began to mingle, people started making their way toward Cora to chat. Cole took a glass of champagne and a glass of juice from a passing waiter's tray, handing the juice to Cora. Mr. Wallace was also at the gala. He had spotted Cole the moment he walked in and had been watching him intently, not missing a single move. Seeing the crowd around Cole thin out, he picked up his glass and moved against the flow of people, drawing a few curious glances until he was standing in front of Cole. Mr. Miller, long time no see. At the sound of his name, Cole turned. He was momentarily surprised to see Mr. Wallace. Wallace wasn't from Denver. He had come here solely for a partnership with Cole. Cole had assumed he'd have left after being rejected. It seemed, from his expression, that he hadn't given up. Cora glanced at him. And this is... Before Cole could speak, Mr. Wallace enthusiastically introduced himself. The moment Cora heard his last name was Wallace, she knew exactly who he was, the man who'd brought his mistress to a business meeting. So it's you. For some reason, Mr. Wallace felt a chill run down his spine from the way Cora was looking at him. He quickly took a sip of his drink for courage. Mr. Miller, about the partnership, I'm hoping we could talk again. Our group is truly sincere about working with you. I hope you'll give us a chance. Cole had already rejected him 3 times, but the man was relentless, appearing before him at every opportunity. His persistence was almost admirable. Still, Cole turned him down again. Mr. Wallace, I've made my position very clear. We can drop the partnership talk. And besides, I'm not here to discuss business tonight. Mr. Miller, please don't be so quick to refuse. Just hear me out. Wallace leaned in closer. I know why you said no. Is it because of Wendy? He was partly right. That was one of the reasons. A man who would brazenly bring his mistress to an important meeting made you question his judgment and his sincerity. Seeing the flicker in Cole's expression, Wallace thought he guessed correctly. He lowered his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. I didn't know at the time that she had a history with you. Don't worry, I've already taken care of her for you these past few days. If I had known she was the mistress who married your dad, pushed out your mom, and then got your mom killed, I wouldn't have had anything to do with her, no matter what. What did you just say? Seeing the stunned look on Cole's face, Mr. Wallace thought he hadn't heard him clearly. He quickly scanned the room, his eyes landing on an empty corner. Mr. Miller, how about this? Let's find a quiet place where we won't be disturbed and have a proper chat. Some things aren't convenient to discuss in front of so many people, wouldn't you agree? Wallace's words were still echoing in Cole's mind. Wendy and Sean Sullivan. He'd already had a detective look into them and found out they were mother and son, but he never imagined he had a connection to the Sullivan family. Based on what Wallace just said, he and Sean were half-brothers. Had Sean known this from the beginning? Is that why, 5 years ago, he ordered that driver to kill him? Cole's mind was a tangled mess, unable to distinguish if Wallace was telling the truth or lying. He followed his instincts and started to move. Suddenly, Cora grabbed his hand. Where are you going? Cole snapped back to the present and looked at her. I'm just going to talk with Mr. Wallace over there. I'll be right back. Didn't he already refuse him? Why talk now? Cora didn't understand, but she didn't stop him. She slowly let go, her eyes fixed on a glass in his hand. Don't drink too much. Yeah, I know. Facing Cora, Mr. Wallace was a little nervous. He felt a murderous glint in her eyes and didn't dare look at her twice. He quickly turned and followed Cole. They found a quiet, deserted corner. As soon as Cole sat down, he got straight to the point. Say what you just said again. Cole's entire demeanor had changed. He now projected the sharp, commanding presence of someone in power. Mr. Wallace sat down. About Wendy. I only found out a couple of days ago. I've been looking for a chance to apologize to you in person. Where did you hear this? From Wendy herself. More accurately, he had beaten out of her. He had hit her hard. For days later, she was still in the hospital. Cole asked, What exactly did she tell you? Mister. Wallace looked conflicted. I don't know if I should say some of these things. Cole's voice was cold. Just say it. I won't take it out on you. Wallace skipped the fluff and got to the point. In short, years ago, Don Sullivan met Cole's mother while working in the countryside. After returning to the city, he got involved with another woman. When Cole was 3, Sean was born, and Cole's mother died. It was ruled an accident, but Cole's mother had lived in the country for over 20 years without issue. She'd had no problems giving birth. She traveled for 3 days and nights on a train with a baby in her arms, perfectly fine. How could she have an accident and die less than 3 years after moving to the city? As Cole listened, his mind raced. An image of Don Sullivan from the file flashed before his eyes. He had no memory of this man, his supposed father. He knew very little about him. In his memory, he had always lived with his grandmother, eating the food she cooked, wearing the sweater she knit, with her handmade insoles in his shoes. Cole sat up straight, his face a mask of calm, but his downcast eyes were like daggers. His hand, resting on the arm of the chair, clenched into a fist, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Mr. Wallace had been drinking, and the alcohol made him oblivious to Cole's reaction. He grew more animated as he spoke, his voice filled with righteous indignation, as if he were the hero of the story. 20-some years ago, when he had indirectly caused the death of Cole's mother to get ahead. 20-some years later, her son almost had Cole run down to steal his fiancée. 4 years ago, the Sullivan family went bankrupt. Don and Sean Sullivan were both imprisoned. One died in prison, and the other had just been released. To say Cole had nothing to do with any of this was something Wallace didn't believe for a second. And he'd also learned from Wendy that Cole's grandmother's death was linked to Sean as well. New grudges piled on old ones, 2 lives lost. No wonder Cole had suddenly changed his mind and canceled the partnership. He must have thought Wallace was in league with the Sullivans. This was a disaster he hadn't seen coming. To make money, to get in with Cole, he had to clear up this misunderstanding no matter what. Mr. Miller, I swear I had no idea about the history between you all. If I had known Wendy was your enemy, you could have given me 100 nerve pills and I still wouldn't have dared bring her in front of you. No, wait. Wallace quickly corrected himself. If I'd known all this, I would never have gotten involved with Wendy in the first place. A woman like Wendy is a black-hearted viper. She deserves to die. The Sullivans got what was coming to them. A whole family of snakes in the grass. Rotten to the core, the whole damn lot of them. Wallace spat, stringing insults together one after another. But no matter how vile his curses, Cole's expression remained unchanged. After a long pause, Cole finally asked, "How is she?" Wallace blinked. "What? You said you already took care of her for me." "All right." Wallace licked his dry lips. "She's in the hospital. Can't even get out of bed. As soon as she can stand, I'll bring her to you so she can kneel and apologize." He figured that when facing an enemy, it's best to let the wronged party deliver the final blow themselves for true catharsis. Wallace rubbed his fingers together, carefully probing. "Mr. Miller, now that we've cleared up the misunderstanding, shouldn't we talk business? You've seen the contract. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, just say the word. My company is sincere about this partnership, and you'll get the lion's share of the profits." Wallace was confident when he talked about the deal. In his eyes, no one would refuse such a profitable venture. Businessmen are all about making money, right? He listed the contract's benefits, how it would not only be profitable, but also boost the reputation of Cole's restaurant chain. Of Cole's companies, only his game development studio was publicly traded. If he agreed to this partnership, his restaurant business wouldn't be far from an IPO. Cole shook his head. "I might be open to discussing other partnerships, but not this one." "Why not?" "Because the freshness and quality of the ingredients can't be guaranteed. I only do what I want to do and what I am capable of doing well. I started the restaurants to make sure working people could get a good, filling meal. You've seen the prices. They're set very low. It took me a long time to stabilize the service and pricing. If we expand, there will be too many uncertain factors." Cole calmly and methodically laid out the pros and cons. Wallace wanted to use money to entice him into expanding, but Cole's indifference to money left him speechless. Is there really no room for negotiation? "Perhaps we can talk about it again in the future." Cole picked up his glass and stood. "Mr. Wallace, thank you for telling me all this tonight." Looking into Cole's deep, unreadable eyes, Wallace knew it was a lost cause. He stiffly raised his glass and clinked it against Cole's. "Mr. Miller, it was a pleasure to meet you. If another opportunity comes up, please don't forget me." "Don't worry, I won't forget you." He wasn't so petty as to target Wallace over Wendy. It was always better to have another friend than another enemy, especially since Wallace had nothing to do with any of it. Although Cole acted calm on the surface, as if nothing had happened, Cora noticed something was wrong the moment he returned. "What did Mr. Wallace say to you?" Cora studied his face. "You don't look well." There was still a little wine left in his glass. Cole downed it in one gulp. "Honey," he said. The alcohol had made his voice exceptionally low and raspy. Cora pulled him down to sit beside her. "Why are your hands so cold? Can I hold you?" Cora had once told him that when he was sad, he could hold her, and a hug would make it better. The setting wasn't exactly appropriate, but his heart ached, a sharp, piercing pain that made every breath a convulsion. Cora didn't ask why. Without hesitation, she stood up in front of him and wrapped her arms around him. Cole froze for a second, then slowly raised his hands to her waist, feeling her warmth, breathing in her scent. The turmoil inside him gradually began to settle. From her higher vantage point, Cora looked down at the top of his head and gently stroked his hair, but she felt that a simple hug and a pat weren't enough. Noticing that no one was looking their way, she quickly bent down, cupped Cole's face in her hands, and kissed him. The fog in Cole's eyes cleared with her kiss. Cora asked, "Better?" Cole wanted to say yes, but his body betrayed him as he shook his head. Cora leaned in again, this time kissing his lips. It wasn't a fleeting touch. She licked his lips with her tongue, as if savoring a fine wine. Stealing a kiss in such a public place was a different kind of thrill, the feeling that at any moment someone might look over. Cora asked again, "Why are you upset?" Cole opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Cora sat down and hugged him, burying her face in his chest and speaking in a soft, coaxing tone. "It's okay. Your wife is here. I'll always be with you. Whenever you want to talk, I'm ready to listen." Cora liked depending on Cole, but she also liked it when Cole depended on her. "Let's go home." "Leave now." Cole glanced around at the crowded room. "The main program is over. We can leave if we want to." People didn't come to these things for fun. Some came to network, some to exchange ideas, and others just to show off. For Cora, being here was simply a courtesy to the host, a formality. She could leave whenever she wanted. Cora grabbed Cole's hand and pulled him up from the sofa. "Let's go. We're going home." She gathered the hem of her dress, and, ignoring the setting, the stares, and the whispers, she led him by the hand, escaping the room. Someone called out to them, but she pretended not to hear. A bright smile spread across her face. A lock of hair came loose from her updo and danced in the air. She was like a camellia in full bloom, like the fiery sun itself. Once you looked at her, it was hard to look away. Running in high heels left Cora breathless. She leaned against Cole, and once her breathing steadied, she looked back. "I forgot to call the driver." Cole supported her with one arm and took out his phone with the other. "I'll call him." The driver arrived quickly. They got in the car, and neither of them spoke for the entire ride. Cole closed his eyes, but his brain was stuck on a loop, replaying Mr. Wallace's words over and over. The anger inside him had no outlet, and dangerous thoughts flickered at the edges of his mind. What was done was done. Over the past 5 years, he had done what needed to be done. The Sullivans had been punished. When he was getting her, just deserts now. So what was left for him to do? He felt a profound sense of powerlessness, like punching a fist into a pillow. From his wedding to his grandmother's funeral. Jenna running from the wedding, his grandmother's accidental death. The car crash was Sean's fault. His grandmother's death was tied to him, too. And now this story from over 20 years ago was being dragged into the light. These events were a slideshow in his mind, replaying again and again. When they got home, Cole went straight to the study. He took out the safe and tried the lock. First attempt, their wedding date. The lock didn't open. Second attempt, he tried a different prefix, but used the wedding date again. Still nothing. Third attempt, Cole's hand hovered over the dials. He touched the combination lock, and then, finally, he turned the numbers to his grandmother's birthday. With a soft click, the safe opened. The box was open. Without even looking, he knew what was inside. A storm of emotions battled for dominance inside him, swirling and crashing. His hand, resting on the safe, trembled slightly. The answers he had been searching for were right in front of him, but now he was afraid to open it. The safe had become Pandora's box. "You opened it." Cora came in, not realizing it first. "The safe is open." What was the password? Cole's voice was hoarse. "It was my grandmother's birthday." So the contents. If he wasn't mistaken, they were his grandmother's last effects. Cole took a deep breath and opened the lid. The first things he saw were a bank passbook and a debit card. There wasn't much money, only $20,000. For an old woman with no formal job who had raised a child, $20,000 was a lifetime of scrimping and saving. Inside the safe were 2 phones. Cole immediately recognized one as his grandmother's, and the other as the phone he had used 5 years ago. The box also contained the Sullivan family's court judgment papers. Underneath was a photograph, a picture of his mother when she was young. He had never seen it before. And in the very bottom corner, there was a USB drive. Cole took out the two phones and tried to turn them on. They both had power and seemed to work fine, with all the old photos and chat logs preserved. He checked his grandmother's call log. Her last call was made at 10 in the morning on May 20th. By then, he had already been in a car crash. He had missed her last call. In his old phone's blocked list, he saw missed calls and messages from Jenna. In the messages, Jenna was apologizing profusely, claiming she didn't know he'd get into an accident. She thought Sean was just going to have some guys rough him up a bit, not cause a major crash, never imagined he'd lose the use of his leg. She also expressed a million apologies for his grandmother's death. His grandmother had called her, but Sean had answered the phone. Shortly after that call, his grandmother had her accident. Cole was overwhelmed with grief, pain, and rage, yet his face remained calm. It was the powerlessness of reading a book when you already know the tragic ending. No matter how many times you read it, you can't change the outcome. Cole took the USB drive from the box, plugged it into the computer, and clicked on the file. A video began to play. The sound came first before the image. "Cole, are you okay?" The familiar voice filled the room. At the first two words, "My Cole," tears instantly welled in his eyes. As his grandmother's voice faded, the camera panned up from the floor, slowly focusing on her face. Her vision wasn't what it used to be. It took her a moment to find the camera lens. Then she smiled, the same gentle smile she had given him countless times before. The smile that called him home for dinner. The smile that saw him off as he left. In that moment, Cole felt as though his grandmother had never left him. She was alive, calling him from Havenwood, a video call that had traveled across 5 years to reach him. In the video, the old woman looked to be in good spirits. She waved at the screen. "The apples at home are ripe. I had someone pick them yesterday. They'll be ready for you when you get back. They don't keep long, so you have to come back soon. I made some wontons and dumplings for you in the freezer. I put your red envelope under the bed. I have some money in my savings account. The pin is your birthday. Cole, I want to say you are your grandma's pride. Because of you, my life has had meaning. Because of you, I've been so happy." The old woman gazed lovingly at the camera, as if she wanted to reach through the screen and give him a hug. "Grandma," Cole whispered, his voice already choked and hoarse. His grandmother's eyes turned red, too. She continued, "Helen Miller, you've lived a good life at 75. You had a husband who cherished you, a beautiful daughter, and an obedient, filial grandson. We were a little poor, but we never worried about food or clothing. When my grandson grew up, he earned money and fixed up the house for me. He planted my favorite flowers in the yard and even hired someone to take care of me." She grew happier as she spoke, as if she were showing off to someone, a proud and radiant smile spreading across her face. "Helen Miller, your life has been worth it. Even if you die, you'll have died of old age, a full life. I'm so glad I married into the Miller family, and I'm glad I put down roots here. My only regret is that I couldn't bring Cole to live with me sooner." His grandmother never spoke of her hardships. She only ever remembered the kindness others showed her. "Cole, you must cherish the people who love you." As she said this, her gaze suddenly shifted upward. She must have been looking at the person recording the video. "I believe you will be a wonderful husband and a good father or grandfather. Your life is long. You don't need to be sad that I'm gone. Did I ever tell you that when people die, they become stars in the sky? If you miss your grandma, just look up. I'll always be watching over you from heaven. In the next life, I still want to be your grandma. Havenwood is a good place. When I die, bury me on that mountain. The mountain where my husband and my daughter are buried. From there, I can see our home. My dear grandson, when I'm gone, you have to take care of yourself. Don't stay up too late. Eat well. You are your grandma's pride. You never brought shame on me, and I never brought shame on your mother." The light in his grandmother's eyes began to fade, like a candle flame in the wind, ready to be extinguished at any moment. Suddenly, she turned her head toward the door, her mouth open, gasping for air. "I think I see them coming to get me." "Who is it?" The old woman murmured to herself. "My father and mother, my husband, my daughter, my friends. They're coming for me with flowers." A blissful light radiated from her face. She smiled happily, laughing out loud, tears of joy streaming down her face. She turned back. "Young lady, thank you for coming to see me today. I'm so happy. Can you tell me your name now? I know you're not Jenna. This old lady may be old, but my mind is still sharp." Cora's voice came from the video. "Grandma, my name is Cora." The old woman closed her eyes. "Cora, Cora, my love. I'll remember you. Cora, you're a good girl. When I'm gone, my grandson will have a hard time. Could you do me a favor? Anything. Help me take care of him. Help him through this difficult time. Remind him to eat and sleep so he doesn't harm his health. He's the one I worry about most. But I know he's always been strong. He'll get through this." A hand reached out and grasped his grandmother's raised hand tightly. "Grandma, I promise you, I'll take good care of Cole. I will be there for him in your place." "Thank you. Cole, Grandma can't be with you anymore. You have to be okay." The old woman let out a long, final breath, a rattling sound like a broken bellows. The camera tumbled, and there was a loud thud. As the phone hit the floor, the heart monitor let out a cold, piercing shriek. Beep, beep, beep. Watching the screen, Cole's heart felt like it was being sliced apart. The sudden pain forced him to lean forward, his right hand clutching his chest, a fist tightening around the fabric of his shirt. The video was over, but his grandmother's final words replayed in his mind. Time had taken away the person, but not the love. How could he not have regrets? His grandmother wasn't at his wedding. She never saw her great-grandson. She never celebrated her 80th birthday. Cole sat in front of the computer, his body shaking with sobs. Suddenly, he felt a warmth at his back. Cora was there, hugging him from behind, her face buried in the crook of his neck. Having seen the video and the contents of the box, Cora had pieced most of it together. 5 years ago, after his grandmother's accident, Cora had gone to see her one last time and recorded this video for Cole. This video had helped him through his darkest hours, and Cora had been by his side, helping him survive, one day at a time. At 11 that night, Cole and Cora lay in bed. He held her close and told her everything Mr. Wallace had said at the gala. When he finished, Cora just held him tighter, resting her head on his chest. Meanwhile, the gala had ended. After Cole and Cora left, people had started to trickle out. Seeing the room was nearly empty, Mr. Wallace got up and left with Mr. Peterson. Peterson asked about the progress of the partnership. Wallace shook his head. He refused again. This deal is a gold mine for him. He turned down such a great opportunity to make money. He said his goal isn't to make money. Peterson looked skeptical. You don't think he's just giving you the runaround, do you? Did you clear things up with him about Wendy? I did, Mr. Peterson couldn't figure it out. Maybe you didn't explain it clearly, he said, puzzled. If you told him everything, why wouldn't Cole partner with us? I bet he's still holding a grudge against you. That Wendy is real trouble. I told you before to stop messing around, but you didn't listen. Now look, you stepped right in it. Wendy wasn't as young or beautiful as the girls he usually went for, but she knew how to make a man happy. That was the only reason Mr. Wallace had kept her around. Peterson spent the entire ride back berating Wallace, criticizing his poor judgment, letting a woman wrap him around her finger. What did you even see in her? That she's old? That she's had a kid? That her skin is starting to sag? Or was it that she's a murderer? Wallace's face was livid. Shut up, Peterson muttered. If it wasn't for you and Wendy, this deal probably would have gone through. Wallace closed his eyes, deep in thought, replaying Cole's every move that night. Something fell off. He grunted. I don't know if it's just me, but when I mentioned Wendy and the Sullivans tonight, Cole's reaction, it was like he didn't know any of it. Peterson scoffed. How could he not know? He's the one who bankrupted the Sullivans. He personally sent his own father to prison. And then there's Sean and Wendy. One goes to jail, the other runs off to be a mistress. Wendy's got some luck, though, still landing a rich guy at her age. At the mention of a rich guy, Peterson shot Wallace a sideways, icy glance. Wallace felt a surge of frustration. What are you looking at me for? If I had known any of this, you think I would have kept her? I've already kicked her out. I'll make sure she can't find work anywhere. If Wendy had it easy, he wouldn't. Pissing off Cole meant pissing off the entire Vance Corporation. He had no desire to become the next Don Sullivan. Thinking of Wendy filled Wallace with rage. Combined with the alcohol, his temper flared. He ordered his men to pull Wendy out of the hospital and beat her again. Wendy lay on the floor, her clothes torn, her body covered in bruises. Her nose was broken, blood streaming down her face. Only after Wallace left could she finally catch her breath. She wiped the blood from her nose and, fighting through the pain, searched for her phone. A few days ago, Wallace had beaten her unconscious, and she'd ended up in the hospital. Her phone had been left behind. She was trapped there, terrified he would kill her. She wanted to escape, but she had no phone, no credit cards. When he found her phone in her purse, she had taken a beating, but at least now she could call her son for help. The phone's battery had died. She found the charger, plugged it in, and turned it on. The screen lit up with a flood of missed calls and messages. They were all for Sean. When he called him back, he picked up immediately. Sean's impatient voice came through the phone. Mom, why are you just calling me back now? Where have you been? Your phone was off. I was so worried. Wendy gritted her teeth against the pain. Did you need something? Of course I did. It's urgent. Sean sounded frantic. Mom, I need you to send me some money. I'm broke. I got hurt and I need to buy medicine. And you need to hire me a maid to take care of me, cook, and clean. She'd only had external bruises before, but now, hearing his words, she felt a stabbing pain in her internal organs. You're home all day. How could you get hurt? I don't have any money for you right now. Sean laughed. How can you not have money? That purse you were carrying last time, and all that jewelry, that's got to be tens of thousands. At the very least, just ask Wallace for some. You're dating now. It's normal for him to spend money on you. A lump formed in Wendy's throat. She took a deep breath. You've been calling me for days. Weren't you even a little concerned about me? I am concerned. Now that you called back, I know you're fine. Wendy laid it all out. Wallace and I are over. What happened? Sean panicked. What did you do to piss him off? Wallace found out about our history with Cole. Because of me, Cole canceled their partnership. Wallace took his anger out on me. The reason you couldn't reach me is because I've been in the hospital. My phone was at the hotel. The more Wendy thought about it, the more wronged she felt, and she started to cry. I really don't know what to do now. I've offended Wallace. My future is probably no house, no money, no jewelry, no car. And when Wallace had beaten her, he had sworn to take back everything he'd ever given her. So now, she had nothing and a body full of injuries. It was all because of Cole. If it wasn't for him, Wallace would never have abandoned her. You should just let it go. It had been so many years. Why couldn't he just move on? Pretend nothing ever happened. The more Wendy thought about it, the angrier she got, and the pain in her broken nose intensified. She touched it gingerly, tears and snot smearing her face. There was no more money to be squeezed from her. She pinned her last hope on Sean. Have you gotten in touch with Jenna Vance? Didn't you say she'd give you money for old time's sake? What happened back then wasn't just your fault. You went to prison, but what about her? She owes you, and she needs to pay up. Sean thought so too. That's why he had been trying to contact Jenna ever since he got out. He had managed to see her, and all he got was a beating. The thought made his blood boil. Hearing Sean's prolonged silence, Wendy's heart sank. She asked tentatively, You screwed up? If they couldn't get money from Jenna, she and her son were truly finished. Wendy's face was now ruined. It would cost a fortune to fix. And Sean, he had never been a good student, had no degree. Now with a prison record, no company would hire him. And his face. Sean used to be handsome enough to be a model or an influencer. But now his face was scarred, and he had let himself go. Not even a beauty filter could save him now. The mother and son had hit a dead end. When he was too beaten down to even think about the future. I'm tired, she said wearily. I'm hanging up. I need to rest. She ended the call. Sean clutched his phone, his expression darkening as he stared out the window. He believed that Cole was the cause of all his problems. If it weren't for him, he and his mother wouldn't be living like this. The Sullivan family wouldn't have collapsed. He would still be the admired and sought-after Sean Sullivan. He had barely gotten out of prison, and Cole was already trying to hunt them down to push him and his mother to their deaths. Since Cole didn't want them to have a good life, then no one would. On Thursday, Cora carved out time to see Jenna. She didn't say anything, just told Jenna to be her assistant for the day. Why should I? You could also just leave, Cora said calmly. Go straight to the airport. I'm not interested in wasting my time talking to you, either. In truth, Jenna didn't know what she would say to Cora anyway. She had said everything she needed to say 5 years ago, and repeating it would just be another humiliation. So without much thought, she agreed. Being Cora's assistant really just meant trailing after her and doing odd jobs. Most of the time, she just watched Cora handle business, watch her lead meetings. It had been a long time since she had been this close to Cora. 5 years was enough to change a person, but Cora seemed exactly the same. Flamboyant and regal, decisive and unflappable, capable of making major decisions with crisp efficiency. The more time she spent with her, the more Jenna understood the chasm between them. Before their parents brought Cora home, Jenna had been the star of her social circle. Everywhere she went, she was surrounded by admirers. With her family status and her looks, she never lacked for suitors or sycophants. Back then, she was the perfect child everyone else's parents compared their own to. Until Cora appeared. From the first glance, Jenna knew she couldn't compete. And sure enough, within a month, Cora had replaced her. From then on, when people mentioned the Vance family, they always mentioned Cora first. They would compare them, saying Cora was prettier, smarter, a better businesswoman, more clever. Jenna had even tried to imitate Cora for a while. As sisters, they had similar features. With the right makeup and clothes, she could go from a 40% resemblance to 70 or 80%. Why imitate Cora? Because Cole was going to marry her. On their wedding day, she wore a dress similar to Cora's reception gown and arranged for someone to drug Cole's drink, foolishly thinking she could have him that way, ruin their wedding. But Cole had recognized her from just her silhouette. She still remembered the look in his eyes, as if he were looking at a cheap knockoff. No matter how much you imitate her, you will never be her. A counterfeit is always a counterfeit. Jenna snapped out of her memory and looked at Cora, who stood with her back to the large screen at the head of the conference table. She was in the highest position of power. Here, no one dared to defy her. She was right next to her, close enough to touch, yet Jenna felt that Cora was a world away, so far that she had to crane her neck just to see her. Was this the difference between people? Cora was only 5 years older than her, and she had already taken over the entire Vance family enterprise, firmly seated as the chairwoman. And her? She had been adrift abroad, complaining about failed relationships, a miserable life, and unfair parents. Sometimes you just have to admit, Jenna thought with a self-deprecating laugh, that in the face of raw talent, hard work means nothing. The meeting ended. Cora had her assistant bring in a cup of tea. The rising steam told Jenna just how hot it was. Cora looked at the cup and gestured to Jenna. Pick it up and drink it. Though Jenna didn't understand what Cora was doing, she obeyed. The moment her fingers touched the porcelain, she felt the searing heat. She lifted it and immediately set it down. It's too hot. She couldn't even hold it, let alone drink it. Drink it. I said it's too hot. I can't. Scalding tea splashed onto the back of her hand, and Jenna's temper flared. She slammed the cup down. Cora's voice was cool and distant. The tea is too hot for you to drink. So if I gave you my position in this company, do you think you could hold it? Their grandfather loved tea and had taught her the art. From lighting the incense to savoring the brew, she had burned her hands countless times, but she never once thought of giving up. Life is like tea, a matter of holding on and letting go. The ability to pick it up is strength. The wisdom to put it down is power. If you can't pick it up, you'll achieve nothing. If you can't put it down, you'll be tormented by your own thoughts. You must bear what you must bear and forget what you must forget. You can't even hold a cup of tea. What about everything else? To wear the crown, you must bear its weight. How could she not understand such a simple truth? Jenna's face stiffened. Are you mocking me? Saying I'm overreaching? If you want to see it that way, fine. Cora tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. Instead of always trying to compete with me, maybe you should try improving yourself. 100 lectures wouldn't be as effective as letting her experience it firsthand. Only then would she know her own worth, know how vast the distance was between them. Just like this scalding cup of tea. She couldn't hold it, so she had to put it down. The family fortune was like that. And so were people. Everything you've seen today, I've built up over years. I could hold this cup of tea when I was 7. What makes you think that just because we share a last name, you can stand on equal footing with me? That you could take my place? I could give you this seat, and you wouldn't be able to keep it warm. An assistant brought in another cup of tea. In front of Jenna, Cora picked it up without a tremor, her hand perfectly steady. You would have thought she was holding a cup of cold water. Cora took a sip of the hot tea and gently set it down. Sean Sullivan was recently released from prison. You need to clean up the mess you made. At the name Sean, Jenna visibly reacted. You two are the ones who got Cole's grandmother killed. A human life. The price he paid was far too small. I didn't kill her grandmother, Jenna retorted. Cora stared at her, her expression flat, not bothering to hide the murderous intent in her eyes. You were an accomplice. You're just as guilty. If it weren't for you, Cole wouldn't have been in that crash, and his grandmother wouldn't have died. Are you trying to shirk responsibility for what you've done? If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to even show myself to Cole. Cora's words hit Jenna like a physical blow. She stammered. What do you want me to do? Do I have to teach you that, too? Cora's hand rested on the arm of her chair. You're going abroad, aren't you? Find a reason to have him go with you. Once you're out of the country, you can deal with him however you want. Shootings and homicides were common in other countries. The sudden death of one person wouldn't cause a stir. In Cora's view, if you had a problem, you dealt with it completely, leaving no loose ends. Do you have the guts? Or can't you bear to part with him? I suppose he was your first love, after all. You even ran out on your wedding for him. Jenna cut her off, her voice loud. I have the guts, and I don't care about him. For Cole, and for herself, she was willing to get rid of Sean. Jenna clenched her trembling hands. Maybe if Sean were dead, Cole could finally forgive her. But no one expected that trouble would come looking for them. That afternoon, Mr. Vance called Cora, asking her to bring Leo home for dinner. After the meal, Jenna would be preparing to leave the country. At 4 o'clock, Cora drove to the preschool to pick up Leo. Daisy, the dog, was in the car with them. Jenna sat in the passenger seat while Cora drove. After Leo was buckled into his car seat in the back with Daisy, he saw Jenna and politely said, "Aunt Jenna." Leo's attention was entirely on the dog. "Mom, why did you bring Uncle Daisy today?" "We're going to Grandpa and Grandma's for dinner tonight." "Grandpa, Mrs. Daisy." "Oh, I see." Daisy had been sitting quietly next to Leo, but her ears were pricked, alert. Leo stroked Daisy's ears. He still had some bread left over from his snack and was about to give it to her. Just as he pulled it out, Daisy barked twice. "You can have it in a second. Don't be impatient," Leo said, quickening his movements. Daisy barked louder, her eyes fixed desperately in one direction. Daisy rarely barked. Her sudden outburst immediately put Cora on high alert. She quickly scanned her surroundings and saw a van in the distance, speeding toward them. They were near a school, with children still on the sidewalks, but the van wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating. Jenna was looking at her phone. She only heard Cora shout, "Look out," before a deafening crash threw them forward. Cora had reacted instantly, gripping the steering wheel and turning the car to take the impact with the front, shielding Leo in the back. The front of the car was crumpled, but thankfully the airbag deployed in time. Cora had only a few minor cuts from the shattered windshield. But Jenna in the passenger seat was not so lucky. The van had smashed the passenger door inward. Jenna's mind went blank, the massive impact ringing in her ears. Dizziness and tinnitus were followed by a delayed, searing pain, especially in her leg. Her vision swam between black and white. After a moment, it cleared enough for her to see the blood soaking through her stockings. Her right leg was trapped by the crushed door, bent at an unnatural angle. Familiar pain, a familiar wound. It was as if she were thrown back 7 or 8 years, to a time when her leg had bled just like this. Jenna gritted her teeth, trying to pull her leg free. She struggled, but it was no use. A wave of despair washed over her. My leg! My leg! Her leg had been injured before. She had spent a long time in a wheelchair. She knew the agony of not being able to stand or walk. The fear that her leg was ruined again was overwhelming. Leo was pale with fright. After a moment, he burst into tears. In the instant of the crash, Daisy had shielded him with her body. The big dog was now lying over Leo, licking his face as if to comfort him. Cora got out of the car and immediately pulled Leo out. Then she went to check on Jenna's injuries, calling for help as she dialed 911. By the time the paramedics got Jenna out, she had passed out from the pain. Her lower body was covered in blood. The worst injury was to her right leg, right at the knee. Cora remembered the doctor's warning from years ago. He had told them that even after healing, Jenna's leg would be fragile. She had to be careful not to injure it again. If she hurt the same spot, it would be extremely difficult to heal. Cora was bleeding too, but they were just superficial cuts. Leo was unharmed. Daisy had some minor bleeding. Cora looked at the van. It was heavily damaged. The man inside was covered in blood and unconscious. At first, Cora didn't recognize him. Not until the paramedics pulled him out. Sean Sullivan. 5 years ago, he had sent someone to run down Cole. 5 years later, he had done it himself. Only this time, his luck had run out. At the same time, Cole felt a sudden lurch in his chest, an inexplicable sense of panic flooding his system. He took out his phone and looked at his messages. Cora had texted him half an hour ago. "Honey, I'm picking up Leo from school. Mom and Dad called and want us to come for dinner. Just head over there after work." By now, Cora should have already picked up Leo. Cole was about to call her when his phone rang. It was her. He answered. "Cora, honey, I'm at the hospital." Her voice was trembling. "What happened?" Cole stood up, grabbing his car keys and heading for the door. "What happened?" he asked again as he walked. "There was a car accident." "Which hospital?" Cora gave him the address and quickly tried to reassure him. "Don't worry, Leo and I are okay. I'll explain everything when you get here." It was a deep-seated trauma. The moment Cole heard the words car accident, he tensed, his mind racing with fear for Cora, terrified she was hurt. At the hospital, Mr. and Mrs. Vance had also arrived. They clung to each other, one's legs threatening to give out, the other's face pale as a sheet. As they got off the elevator, they saw Cora holding Leo, trying to soothe him. "Cora, are you okay?" "We're fine." Leo was clearly terrified. He had been crying for a long time, his face red and puffy. Now, he was just silently clinging to his mother. Cora had called them and briefly explained what had happened. Sean Sullivan had crashed into them with a van. Thankfully, their car was reinforced, so the impact wasn't as bad as it could have been, but the passenger door had caved in, crushing Jenna's leg. Right now, the prognosis for Jenna's leg was not good. The right leg was severely injured. A new injury on top of the old one would be even harder to treat than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Cole had been there to oversee her recovery. Now, she would never find someone as patient and meticulous as him again. The outcome was in God's hands. If she was lucky, she might walk again. If not, she could face amputation. Hearing that her daughter might lose her leg, Eleanor swayed, and tears streamed down her face. Robert helped her to a chair and then went to check Cora's injuries. Shouldn't you get checked out? The doctor already saw me. Leo and I are fine, just some cuts and scrapes. What about Cole? Did you call him? I did. He should be here any minute. As if on cue, the elevator doors opened. Cole emerged, his face a mask of anxiety and panic. He rushed to Cora, checking her over. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Does anything hurt? Did a doctor check you? From the moment of the crash, Cora had handled everything with a steady hand. The accident scene, the ambulance ride, questions from the police and her parents. She had remained calm. But now, facing Cole, a lump formed in her throat. Her eyes welled up, and, as the first tear fell, she choked out, "You're finally here." In his arms, she found her anchor. She didn't have to be strong anymore. She could cry. She could tell him how scared she was. Every nerve in his body felt like it had been twisted into a knot, cinching his organs so tightly he couldn't breathe. Cole raised a hand to wipe the tears from her face. When Leo saw him, he too seemed to find his safe harbor. He reached out his little arms, his face crumpled. "Daddy, hold me." Cole swept Leo up with one arm, his voice unsteady with emotion. "You were scared, weren't you?" Leo wrapped his arms tightly around Cole's neck, his eyes brimming with tears. "Daddy, I thought I'd never see you again." "It's okay now," Cole murmured, holding him close. "It's all over." Leo looked toward the operating room. "Is Aunt Jenna going to die?" he whispered. Only then did Cole realize Jenna had been hurt. Seeing Mr. and Mrs. Vance nearby, he didn't press for details. He just shook his head and told Leo, "No, she won't." Cole held his son with one arm and his wife with the other. He carefully checked Cora over again, spotting some bloodstains on her clothes. "Where are you hurt?" Cora rolled up her sleeve to show him the bandaged wound. "It's just a few cuts. Nothing serious." When Mr. and Mrs. Vance saw Cole, they too looked as if a weight had been lifted from their shoulders. The light above the operating room remained on. Cole took out his phone, pulled up the dashcam footage, and cued it to the time of the accident. The first thing he heard was Daisy barking, as if warning Cora of the danger. Cora turned her head and saw the van hurtling toward them, then quickly wrenched the steering wheel to brace for impact. The crash happened in an instant. A loud bang, the screen shook violently, and then Leo's crying filled the car. Cole gripped his phone, his heart twisting into a knot. Thank God Daisy had been in the car. Her barking had alerted Cora, and she had shielded Leo from the impact. That's why Leo was unharmed. Jenna had been in the passenger seat, looking down at her phone, her legs crossed. Cole couldn't help but think that if she hadn't been on her phone, if she had noticed what was happening, maybe she could have avoided this. But when bad luck comes calling, there are no what-ifs. Cora didn't want anything to happen to Jenna, not out of sisterly affection, but for her parents. They were getting older and couldn't handle the shock. No matter how many mistakes Jenna had made, she was still their child. If something happened to her, it would be her parents who would suffer. Cole felt the same way. From a video, it was clear Jenna was seriously injured, her legs covered in blood, the car door crushed against her right leg. With just one look, he knew it was broken. He just didn't know how badly. Cole had been Jenna's physical therapist once, specifically for her leg. He knew how fragile it was. Even after it healed, it was like glass. She couldn't do any strenuous exercise, even had to limit how much she walked. It would ache whenever the weather turned cold, requiring regular acupuncture treatments. The doctors had told her time and again to protect that leg, that a second injury could mean she'd never walk again. "Where's Daisy?" Cole asked. Cora replied, "I had my assistant take her to the vet. Daisy's injuries weren't life-threatening, but they looked bad and needed to be cleaned and bandaged." After processing the accident scene, the police came to the hospital to take statements. As serious as Jenna's broken leg was, Sean Sullivan's injuries were worse. The force of the crash had slammed his head against the doorframe. He had several broken ribs and internal bleeding in his chest, abdomen, and brain. The doctors had declared his condition critical. Even if Sean survived, he would be a quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. The situation was this. Sean had just gotten out of prison and had no one the police could contact. Finally, after some effort, they managed to get through to Wendy. When Wendy heard that Sean was in an accident, her world collapsed. Especially when she heard he had intentionally crashed his car in an attempted murder. She nearly fainted. Before the crash, Sean had sent Jenna a text message. "Jenna, do you regret ever being with me?" Jenna had replied, "Yes, I do. I regret it so much. I even wish you had died in prison. Why did you have to get out? The timestamp on the message matched the time of the crash. So Jenna was replying to Sean's text in the car, and Sean, after reading that message, had slammed on the accelerator and crashed into them without hesitation. The police reviewed security footage from the area. From noon until the afternoon, Sean had been circling the area in the van, finally parking at the intersection. It was clear his intent was to crash into someone. He blamed Cole for everything that had happened to him, saw him as the source of all his misery. He had seen Cora and Leo in the car, and Jenna too. He had been willing to give Jenna a chance to live, but she had thrown it back in his face. A 3-for-1 trade, he must have thought. A worthy sacrifice. If he was lucky, he'd kill them all. If not, well, he'd just go back to prison. But he had never calculated that the person most seriously injured would be himself. He had hoped Cole would suffer as he had, his family torn apart, his wife and child dead in a car crash. But what was the result? They had a few scratches. Jenna was wheeled out of the recovery room. Her life was no longer in danger, but her leg. The doctor's face was grim. Her leg was already severely damaged. This new fracture is in the exact same location, near the knee. It's possible. He sighed. The family should arrange for a transfer. The patient's condition is not good. The doctor laid out the prerequisites. Mr. Vance made some calls, and that night, Jenna was transferred to the best orthopedic hospital in the state. Experts were consulted, and a plan was formulated overnight, with a surgery scheduled pending further observation. It was a situation they had been through once before. They had experience now. Mr. Vance made the arrangements with a grim efficiency. When he was done, he slumped into a chair, looking utterly defeated. Cole brought back some food. Mom, Dad, we'll watch over her. You should go home and rest. Eleanor shook her head. I'd worry even more at home. I'd rather be here. Robert waved a hand. It's fine, Cole. Don't worry about us. You should take Leo home. He's been through a lot. I'll call the school and tell them he'll be out for a few days. Okay. Leo was still traumatized and wouldn't let go of Cole. He was asleep in his father's arms, his small hand clutching Cole's tie. Cole took off his jacket and draped it over him. His phone buzzed with messages from Leo's teacher and the preschool director, asking if he was okay. Cole replied to each one, assuring them he was safe, and formally requested a few days off for him. Jenna awoke to pain, and the first thing she did was try to feel her legs. They were so numb with agony that she couldn't feel them at all. She couldn't lift them, couldn't even wiggle her toes. The air was thick with the biting smell of disinfectant. Ever since she broke her leg 5 years ago, she had developed a deep-seated fear of hospitals. Once bitten, twice shy. No one wants to go through the same injury twice, especially not a broken bone in the exact same spot. An intense, suffocating fear gripped her. She wanted to scream, to cry, to lash out, but her body wouldn't move. She opened her mouth to call for help, but all that came out were silent tears. Despair washed over her like a rising tide, pulling her down into a dark, bottomless ocean. It was supposed to be early summer, but she felt as if she were buried in a snowdrift in the dead of winter. The cold made her mind foggy, unable to distinguish between dream and reality. Footsteps approached the door. As they grew closer, she saw her mother. Mom. Her voice was a raw whisper. What's wrong with my leg? Eleanor's eyes reddened. She turned away to wipe them. We've decided to transfer you. This was already the best hospital in Denver. If she needed to be transferred, it meant her leg was in very bad shape. She was terrified she would never walk again, terrified of amputation. She trembled, huge tears rolling down her cheeks, soaking the pillow. Eleanor sat by the bed, trying to soothe her. It's going to be okay. You got through this before, you can do it again. It will be okay. It's not the same. This time was different, because she would never find someone as patient, as caring as Cole. Jenna's eyes were lifeless, a void that chilled anyone who looked into them. The room was silent, but it was a cold, empty silence, filled with grief and the shadow of death. Eleanor tried to make conversation. Do you know who hit you? Jenna looked at her. It was Sean, Eleanor said. He contacted you after he got out of prison. You two met, didn't you? She had looked at Jenna's phone. The call logs and messages hadn't been deleted. He contacted you. Why didn't you tell us? You knew he was a lowlife. Eleanor couldn't bring herself to scold her. She decided, to put it bluntly, if Jenna hadn't gotten tangled up with Sean, none of this would have happened. Some people are just born bad. Prison can't fix them. 5 years ago, Sean had someone break Cole's leg. 5 years later, he did it himself, but this time he hit Jenna instead of Cole. In a twisted way, it was a kind of karma. You can't truly understand someone else's pain until you've felt it yourself. Now she had suffered the same injury Cole had. Eleanor was heartbroken and angry. Seeing Jenna lying there, so frail and broken. The thousand scolding words she wanted to say dissolved into tears. From the moment of the crash, Jenna had seen Sean in the driver's seat of the van. Her first reaction was terror. But as the pain set in, she had another thought. Is this what I deserve? The bad things you do eventually come back to you in another form, and with interest. Don't think you can get away with it. What goes around comes around. Just like the terrible thing she had done to Cole, which had now come back like a boomerang to strike her down. The police brought Wendy to the scene. She cried the whole way, insisting she knew nothing about Sean's plan to crash his car. She lamented her terrible luck. She had finally snagged a rich husband, but he died before she could enjoy the good life. The money was gone. The son she had worked so hard to raise had gone to prison, and now he was a quadriplegic. I don't have money for his medical bills. I'm giving up treatment. He's an adult. He needs to pay for his own actions. I can't be responsible for him forever. I raised him. That's enough. Don't come to me for compensation. I have no money. Aren't they all fine? No one died. Look at my son. Look what happened to him. Wendy threw a tantrum, refusing to pay a cent. After weighing the pros and cons, Wendy decided to save herself. Sean was paralyzed, a lost cause. He would only be a burden. To be frank, the 5 years Sean was in prison had strained their relationship. They were not close. Compared to this useless son, she cared more about herself. The police investigated and confirmed that Wendy was not involved. She may have been morally bankrupt, but she hadn't broken the law. They couldn't do anything to her. Wendy just wanted to get out of there as fast as she could. Sean's actions had put them on the wrong side of the entire Vance family and Cole. Old grudges on top of new ones. Did she really think they would let her go? Not a chance. Just as Wendy was about to slip away, she was stopped by a group of security guards who forced her back into the hospital room. The next morning, Sean slowly regained consciousness. Quadriplegia meant nothing moved but his head. He opened his eyes and saw the ceiling. Where was he? Then he saw the floor drip and realized he was in a hospital. Memories flooded back. He had tried to kill them all, to run them off the road. He wanted Cole's whole family dead. If not dead, then paralyzed, amputated. He wanted Cole to suffer for the rest of his life. Everyone who had wronged him had to pay, including Jenna. With that thought, Sean had chugged a bottle of liquor, his mind consumed with taking them all down with him. He had slammed on the accelerator, his eyes filled with murderous rage. The moment of impact was a blank. Then, as the adrenaline faded, the terror set in, followed by the pain. He started to regret it, but there was no turning back. The agony of that near-death experience was a terrifying memory. He still didn't know how he had found the courage to go through with it. He was so badly injured. Surely Cole's wife and son were just as bad, if not worse. Sean tried to move his feet, his legs, but nothing responded. He couldn't feel his own limbs. It was as if they had vanished. What's happening? Sean fought back the panic, contorting his face with effort. But no matter how many times he tried, nothing moved. At least he could see and hear. He opened his mouth, his face twisted and rasped, "Help! Somebody! Is anyone there? Doctor, nurse." Just saying that much took all his strength. He gasped for air. Someone came. Hearing a noise at the door, Sean strained his neck to see. It was Wendy. "Mom, what's wrong with me?" he asked frantically. Sean was hysterical, his words tumbling out in a panicked rush. "Mom, what's wrong with my body? Why can't I move?" Wendy stood before him, her face bruised and swollen, her eyes filled with resentment and hatred. "What's wrong with you? You're paralyzed. Quadriplegic from the neck down. Of course you can't move." When Wendy let loose, she held nothing back. Her words were invisible knives, plunging into Sean's body, not killing him, but making the pain unbearable. Looking at Sean's lifeless form, when he almost wished he had died in the crash, she started screaming at him. "So now you're scared? Where was this fear before? What were you thinking crashing a piece of shit van into a Bentley? A $10,000 wreck into a $500,000 car? Who did you think was going to end up broken? Paralyzed? How could he be paralyzed?" Sean refused to believe it. His eyes widened in fury, and he summoned every last ounce of strength to struggle. But he was like a mouse on a glue trap. No matter how he thrashed, his body remained stuck. Sean opened his mouth and let out a powerless roar, the veins in his neck bulging. All the blood rushed to his head, and the world spun, a buzzing sound filling his ears. What about Cora and the others? As his consciousness faded, he heard Wendy's mocking voice. "They're perfectly fine. A few scratches. Cole's son is the luckiest of all. Not a single hair on his head was touched. The only one who got unlucky was Jenna. I hear she." He didn't hear the rest. Sean passed out, overcome by the sheer absurdity and failure of his plan. He never imagined his elaborate revenge would end like this. His worst-case scenario had been mutual destruction. Instead, He was left to rot in a bed, while Cole's wife and child were perfectly fine. The stark contrast filled him with a rage so potent it was a miracle he didn't cough up blood. Not long after Sean fainted, doctors and nurses rushed in, giving him injections and sternly lecturing Wendy on his fragile condition. His emotions were too volatile. Another outburst could kill him. How ironic, she thought. She was hoping for another outburst. But when the doctor told her to go pay the medical bills, she went. Jenna was being prepared for transfer. Mr. and Mrs. Vance would be going with her. Before she left, she asked to see Cole. Cole agreed. One was lying down, the other standing. They looked at each other calmly, without hatred, without resentment, without any of the old tension. I never used to believe in karma, Jenna began. Now I do. When you do wrong, when you trample on someone's heart, someone else will eventually come along and make you pay it all back with interest. Don't speak evil. Don't act without morals. Don't lose your character. What goes around comes around. God doesn't let anyone off the hook. It's all my fault. If it wasn't for me, your grandmother wouldn't have died. You wouldn't have been in that accident. And I wouldn't have been hit. I was too greedy. I was a poor judge of character. I was too arrogant. I brought this all on myself. Jenna had conceded before, but she had never admitted her fault like this. Most of the time, she blamed everything on Sean. Cole, seeing me like this, does it make you feel better? Jenna's face was pale and gaunt, her lips a faint bluish color. The light above her made her look like a fragile porcelain doll, one that would shatter at the slightest touch. Did she think this would make him soften, forgive her? Impossible. He couldn't even pretend to be magnanimous. Cole didn't hesitate. You're right. It is all because of you. Jenna's expression froze. You're selfish and immature, Cole continued. You casually trampled on someone's heart, and now you're paying the price for your actions. I won't soften and forgive you just because you're hurt, and I will never choose to forget, because forgetting is shameful. Meeting Jenna's wounded gaze, Cole asked, do you think I'm petty? Holding on to the past, after all this time? Jenna bit her lower lip. A faint, pleasant smile touched Cole's lips, but his words were like a knife, slowly slitting her throat. You wouldn't be able to let it go either if it were you, because you weren't the one who was hurt. You're apologizing now, trying to win me back, only because you see that my life is better than yours, that I've climbed higher than you. You're just bitter and resentful. Cole added calmly, I've learned something over the years. Everyone who disrespects you is making a bet. They're betting you have no future. They're betting you'll fail. They're betting you'll endure it, that you'll forget, that you're soft-hearted and will forgive. They're betting that even if you remember, you won't have the power to fight back. If I had given up back then, if I'd become a broken man, would you be here today, crying and begging for my forgiveness? You wouldn't, Cole said with certainty. The pain you caused me was never accidental. You just saw me as an easy target. You threw cold water on my efforts and exploited my kindness as weakness. Sometimes, a person lives on a single breath of will. You have to keep a clear ledger. He had to remember the hatred, use it to climb, and turn the pain into stepping stones on his path to success. Jenna's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The light in her eyes was like extinguished embers, a dull gray. She wanted to say, that's not true, but besides those 3 words, she had nothing else. After a moment, a tired, bitter smile formed on her lips, and tears spilled from the corners of her eyes. I'm sorry, Jenna whispered. I know you're tired of hearing those words. But besides that, I don't know what else to say. You don't have to forgive me. You can ignore me. But I still want to say I'm sorry. Cole took a step back and turned his hand on the doorknob. If it makes you feel better, then I have nothing more to say. Jenna stared at his back. I want to say a few last words to Cora. Can you ask her to come in? The sound of the closing door was his only reply. The room was quiet, and she could hear the faint sounds of people talking and walking in the hallway. With Cole gone, she felt hollow. Jenna stared at the yellowing leaves outside the window, at a sparrow that fluttered past her bed. Cora entered without a sound and sat in the chair by the bed. Like her, Jenna was naturally fair-skinned. After the injury, she looked like a piece of tissue paper soaked in water, transparently white. The pale, blue veins on the back of her hand were clearly visible. Jenna's reaction was slow, like a glitching machine. She slowly turned her head. Sis, I'm sorry. Cora's expression faltered. She clearly hadn't expected to hear those words. It had been a long time since Jenna had called her sis with any sincerity. After what happened 5 years ago, she had apologized to many people, but never to Cora, because deep down, she had never felt she had done anything to be sorry for. I'm sorry for my jealousy, my resentment, my pettiness, my hypocrisy, Jenna began, her voice a monotone recitation. I shouldn't have made malicious assumptions about you. I shouldn't have tried to steal Cole just to feel like I'd beaten you at something. I shouldn't have been so stubborn, knowing I was wrong but refusing to change. I shouldn't have tried to destroy your marriage. People, she thought, if you can't see your own faults, then everyone else is always to blame. Cora, I was so jealous of you. Because you're prettier than me, you have a better body, you're smarter. Everywhere we went, people praised you. Every time they did, I'd think, why couldn't the Vance family just have one daughter? Why couldn't you just disappear? Why could you take everything I wanted? No, that's not right. You never tried to take anything. You just effortlessly got everything I ever wanted. And that made me even more jealous. I saw how much you cared about Cole before you even did. So I used every trick I had to get him for myself. While I was with him, I didn't really love him. I just wanted to prove I could win just once, but I don't know when it happened. I started to care about him more and more. But Cole's background wasn't good enough for me. He had nothing. People looked down on me. They laughed at me for dating him. I couldn't let him go, but I was also ashamed of him. In the end, I decided to run from the wedding. I thought if I can't have him, I'll destroy him. He was like one of my childhood toys. I'd rather throw it away than let you have it. I never thought that after everything, you two would still end up together. I always thought I was the type who gets bored easily, who always wants the next new thing. But with Cole, I became nostalgic. Why is it that people only learn to cherish something after they've lost it? Because we always think something better is coming, never realizing that what's right in front of us is the best we'll ever have. Jenna looked down at her injured leg. There's no happy ending for people who betray a true heart. I'm living proof. If she hadn't gotten tangled up with Sean again, none of this would have happened. Cora hadn't said a word. She picked up an apple and began to peel it, the skin falling away in one long, unbroken spiral. She placed the peeled apple on a plate and stood up to leave. Don't you have anything to say to me? Jenna called out, her voice sharp. Cora paused. There's a line in Norwegian Wood. It says, if awakening and apologies come too late, then let parting teach us to cherish and repent. You already know you were wrong. So what is there for me to say? That you're not sorry because you've seen the light, but because you know you can't get back on your feet and you've lost the fight. Jenna was speechless. This time, when I leave, I won't be back. I won't bother you and Cole again. I wish you happiness. And one last thing. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have drugged Cole at your wedding. But because of that night, I found out just how much he loves you. The way he was with you. It was completely different from how he ever was with me. Cora spun around, her eyes flashing with a dangerous light. Jenna drugged Cole. For a moment, Cora's hands itched. She wanted nothing more than to slap her sister across the face again and again. She fought the primal urge down, her knuckles white. Cora's voice was a low, menacing hiss. You better not come back. Because if you do, I'll hit you every single time I see you. And I wouldn't think twice about breaking your other leg. A shiver ran down Jenna's spine. Goosebumps prickled her arms, rising in a visible tide. After Cora left, Robert and Eleanor Vance arrived to arrange for Jenna's transfer. If the hospitals in the States weren't an option, they'd find one abroad. Her primary surgeon had delivered the grim prognosis: amputation. Think about it, a prosthetic leg could be pretty cool. Technology is so advanced now, they can customize all kinds of beautiful legs for me. Jenna stroked her right leg and accepted the news with a strange calm. She even found the energy to comfort her parents. As Jenna was being transferred, Cole and Cora went to the veterinary hospital to pick up Daisy. The vet told Cole the dog's prognosis was not good. It wasn't just about the accident. She was old. Her body was failing. They'd found tumors. At her age, surgery was a massive risk she might not survive. The vet recommended palliative care. At 15, Daisy was the equivalent of an 80-year-old human. Just reaching that age was a feat in itself. The vet told Cole to prepare himself. Daisy could go at any time. The fur around her wounds had been shaved for treatment and bandages. Daisy lay on the floor, wearing an Elizabethan collar, her breath coming in heavy pants, her sides rising and falling with effort. When she heard them talking about her, her ears perked up, listening intently. The vet gave them some medication. Cole took the prescription and clipped on Daisy's leash. Frank drove as Cole held the old dog in the back seat, stroking the patchy fur. Are you going to leave me too? Cole stared out the window. The wind stung his eyes, making them burn even more, a raw ache spreading to his throat. When they got home, Maria had prepared a bowl of water with pomelo leaves, a folk remedy to wash away bad luck. After dinner was made, the first bowl was served to Daisy in her dish. For saving Leo, for making sure he wasn't hurt, she deserved to eat first. Leo, Cora said, did you thank your Uncle Daisy? It was your dog uncle who saved you. If she hadn't shielded you, you would have been hurt for sure. Leo immediately knelt formally in front of Daisy, his small face earnest. Uncle Daisy, thank you for saving me. I'll take care of you from now on. Whatever you want to eat, I'll buy it for you. When you have to go potty, I'll scoop your poop. When you collect plastic bottles, I'll hold the bag. Leo's solemn vow made everyone crack a smile, chasing away some of the lingering shadows from the accident. Daisy sat on the floor, tilting her head at Leo, as if confused why her little human was kneeling. He was shorter than her on his knees. She leaned in and licked his hair with her big tongue, making him giggle. It was a perfect, heartwarming scene, but a wave of sadness washed over Cole. Cora came to his side, taking his arm. "Cherish the now," she murmured. At the hospital, after 10 days, Wendy checked Sean out and they were gone. For days, besides the police and the bodyguards watching her, no one else had come. She kept thinking Cole would show up, but days passed without a single sign of him. His absence made her panic. Her mind raced with paranoid thoughts. It felt like a blade was hanging over her head, ready to drop at any moment. After leaving the hospital, she took Sean home. Every day was a cycle of cleaning up his filth. He had no control over his body. Feces and urine were a constant, turning the room into a stinking sty. Sometimes, just after she cleaned him up, he'd soil himself again. He was worse than a pig in a pen. No, pigs were cleaner. Mr. Wallace had completely abandoned Wendy. Once he found out she had crossed Cole Miller, he wouldn't dare keep her around. He immediately canceled her supplementary credit card and disappeared with his assistant. Wendy wanted to run, but she couldn't. The story of Sean's hit and run had exploded online, becoming a trending topic. And with it, all the ugly details from 5 years ago were dragged back into the light. Sean Sullivan, that name sounds familiar. Isn't that the rich psycho who crashed a wedding and ran someone over 5 years ago? He's out of prison already. Hit someone right after getting out. This guy is a menace to society and will never change. Just give him the death penalty. There was a kid on the sidewalk. If that Bentley hadn't been there, I can't imagine how many people would have been hurt. Is this Sullivan guy obsessed? 5 years ago, he runs over Cole Miller. 5 years later, he tries to run over Cole Miller's wife and kid. What the hell is his problem with this couple? Terrifying vendetta. I'm following for updates. Hope Cora and her kid are okay. No, not my OTP. They can have car sex, not car accidents. They can get wild, not get wasted. They can be horny, not be hospitalized. Vance Corp just released a statement. Cora and Leo are fine. Oh, thank God. I knew good people would be okay. My sister works at the hospital. She said Sean Sullivan is a high-level quadriplegic, can't move anything below the neck. Serves him right. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So satisfying. Heard his mom is taking care of him now. His mom? Isn't she the mistress? The one who broke up a marriage, brought her bastard son back, and basically caused the first wife to die of a broken heart? Don Sullivan died in prison, too. That whole family is cursed. Cheating men and trashy women, they all get what's coming to them. Prison was too good for Sean Sullivan. Him being paralyzed is perfect. He can't live, but he can't die. Just suffering, rotting in a bed, getting bed sores. A fitting price for what he has done. Latest news. Sean's mom changed her name from Heather Raines to Wendy. Apparently, she's the kept mistress of some other CEO. Is that her profession? Still being a homewrecker at her age? Can her old bones even handle it? Trash is trash, no matter how you sort it. Wrecked a family when she was young, still wrecking them when she's old. Born to be a whore. The actions of Wendy and Sean ignited a firestorm of public outrage. They were doxxed. Some extremists even started showing up at their apartment building, throwing trash and bags of dog shit at their door. Inside, Wendy was dealing with Sean's human waste. She stepped outside for a breath of fresh air and immediately stepped in dog shit. Walking down the street, someone accidentally splashed a dirty puddle on her. The local supermarket refused her entry. At the farmer's market, a group of people muttered insults just loud enough for her to hear. On a single trip out, when he stepped in dog shit 3 times, was bumped into 10 times, had water thrown on her twice, and was nearly hit by a car 5 times. After finally managing to buy a few groceries, she was heading back into her building when a group of women charged at her. A hard slap cracked across her face, stunning her. Before she could react, hands were grabbing, pinching, and twisting. They slammed her to the ground, pulling her hair, tearing at her clothes. Within moments, Wendy's face was bruised and swollen. A bystander thought about intervening, but someone else warned them off. It's a wife schooling a mistress. The woman's a tramp. She deserves it. Knew the guy was married and went after him anyway. The mob of women dragged Wendy, beating her, from the east entrance of the complex to the west, then from the south to the north. Passers-by pulled out their phones, recording, posting to their stories. Some even cheered, shouting, "Give it to her." The women knew what they were doing, keeping the assault just short of felony. Their main goal was public humiliation, to inflict pain and leave superficial injuries. Wendy's screams echoed through the complex. Her clothes were shredded, her hair a tangled mess. One shoe was gone. She was a pathetic sight. At first, as she lay on the ground, she could still cover her head and spit back defiance. "Why are you hitting me? It's your own damn fault you can't keep your man on a leash. Instead of going after the cheater, you come after me? Just because I'm an easy target." Wendy recognized one of them as Mr. Wallace's wife. A bitter, mocking laugh escaped her. "You think I'm the only one to blame? What about you? What about your husband? If you were enough for him, would he have strayed? You're old. You're ugly. You have no taste. Don't blame others for your own incompetence. Why don't you try working on yourself for a change? Remember this, sweetheart. Flies don't swarm a perfect egg. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. If I want to make it official, I could have any time." They had seen arrogant mistresses before, but never one this brazen. Her words ignited the last of their restraint. "Don't you worry," the wife snarled. "After I'm done smashing this cracked egg, I'm going home to swat that damn fly." Winnie had the energy for a final, desperate outburst, but none to stop the beating. It was a one-sided assault. She was beaten until she was twitching, her nose crooked, her mouth swollen, her face a chaotic mess, as if its features had been thrown on at random. Finally, the police arrived and broke it up. Winnie screamed for them to be arrested for compensation, but was told it was a civil matter. She wanted to sue, but she had no money. Besides, if she pushed it, Mr. Wallace's wife would countersue to reclaim all the money he'd spent on her as marital property. Winnie limped home. She didn't dare look in a mirror, just clumsily dabbed at her wounds with iodine and gauze. She was about to collapse when she heard a noise from the bedroom. Sean had soiled himself again. Staring at the shit-yellow stains spreading across the sheets when he finally broke. She let out a raw, animal howl and started slapping Sean's face over and over. You just went. Why did I give birth to such a useless son? If I'd known it would be like this, I should have just birthed you in a goddamn latrine." Other women her age were starting to enjoy their grandchildren, and here she was, waiting on her son hand and foot like a servant. The comparison was a knife in her heart. Wendy's body ached, but her soul screamed, a torrent of snot and tears, weeping for her hopeless life, for her powerlessness. And with the breakdown came regret. If only she had been more careful, more restrained. As the saying goes, leave yourself an escape route. You might need it later. She had burned every bridge. Now her family was shattered. The dead were dead. The disabled were disabled. The wounded were wounded. The savings in her bank account were dwindling. Sean was a bottomless pit. When the money ran out, what would she do? Exhausted from hitting him, Wendy slumped into a chair, her dark eyes fixed on Sean. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't pissed off Cole Miller, would any of this have happened? Why don't you just die? It would be better if you were dead." Sean was the last shred of her conscience. Even as she cursed him, her hands were already moving to change his soiled sheets. But how long could a conscience like that last? Even the purest heart will eventually be ground to dust by a miserable life. After that, Winnie didn't dare leave the apartment. She had everything delivered, paying extra fees. A few days later, her phone number was leaked. Strangers sent her threatening texts, called to scream obscenities at her. Calling the police was useless. She grew paranoid, a constant hum of anxiety in her veins. When she did risk going out, she felt like she was being followed. At home, she felt like cameras were hidden in the walls. No privacy, no safety, just the constant fear that someone was coming for her. After a month, when he couldn't take it anymore, she decided to abandon Sean and run. But she was apprehended the moment she bought a train ticket. The men who caught her were Cole's. From the very beginning, he had never planned on letting her go. He wanted her to live in perpetual despair, in constant fear, to live a life of such anxiety and terror that it was worse than death. Cole didn't see her himself. He simply had a message delivered. As long as Sean was alive, she could never dream of leaving him. Cole enjoyed a good show, especially a drama about a mother's undying love. It was best if she kept acting her part, preferably for the rest of her life. Winnie was terrified, her mind a blank slate of fear. She knew Cole wouldn't let her go. She knew how he had destroyed Don Sullivan, and now he would destroy her in the same way. She replayed the events of the past month in her head. Being doxxed, having filth thrown at her, being assaulted, the constant harassment. It was highly likely Cole had orchestrated it all. Cole Miller was nowhere near as benevolent as he appeared. He had a vengeful streak a mile wide. If he crossed his line, he would retaliate tenfold, without mercy. He could bankrupt the Sullivans with one hand and crush them with the other, without even getting his hands dirty. Just borrowed knives, wielded from the shadows. There was one thing Winnie hadn't guessed wrong. Cole had indeed installed cameras around her apartment, the better to watch the tragic spectacle of her and Sean. Bed sores had begun to fester on Sean's body. He lay like a rotting piece of wood, motionless on the bed, his days a cycle of sleeping and staring blankly at the ceiling. Winnie grew more haggard by the day, aging 20 years in a month. Gray streaks appeared in her hair. She hadn't had the time or money to fix her face, so her nose remained crooked. Wrinkles carved deep lines into her skin. Her eyes were perpetually bloodshot, and her back was bent. The mother and son spent their days screaming at each other, trading blame and hatred. Sean hated himself, and he hated Wendy. "Why you hit me?" he'd slur. "If you hadn't been whining to me about Cole, about how you got beat because of him, would I have gone after him? I did all this for you. You have to take care of me for the rest of your life until you die." She had complained to Sean, yes, but she had never told him to run someone over. How dare he shift the blame to her? The thought of living this life forever was unbearable. When he snapped, she grabbed a pillow, one that was already damp with her tears, and pressed it over Sean's face. Sean had wished for death 1,000 times, but when it actually came for him, he was terrified. He struggled instinctively, a muffled mom escaping his lips. Hearing him call her mom didn't make her stop. It made her press harder. He was a piece of her own flesh. She had named him Sean, her glory, the pride of her life. She had called him her baby, coddled him, loved him. From 10 months in the womb to holding him in her arms, watching him go from stumbling first steps to running, watching him grow taller and taller until he looked down at her. She went from walking in front of him to walking behind him, from looking down at him to looking up. She had loved him so much, and now she was killing him with her own hands. How much strength could a paralyzed man have? Just a little longer, and it would be over. Winnie threw her whole body into it, hugging him tight, her lips by his ear as she wept. "I'm sorry, baby. Mommy just can't do this anymore. Just go to sleep, son. When you're gone, you'll be free." Sean had been struggling, but he stopped when he heard her begin to hum in his ear. "Sleep, sleep, my dear baby." It was the lullaby she used to sing to him when he was little. Whenever he was too playful to sleep, she would hold him tight, stroking his hair and humming that song. Just like now, he would listen, and then he would fall asleep. Sean gave up the fight. In the moment of his death, he thought, "I wish I'd never gotten out of prison." If he weren't paralyzed, if his hands could still move, the last thing he would have wanted to do was hug his mother one last time. Just as Winnie had said, he was useless. He'd never given them a day of peace, only endless trouble. If it weren't for him, the family wouldn't have gone bankrupt, his father wouldn't have died, he wouldn't have gone to prison, and his mother's life wouldn't be this hard. He alone had dragged the whole family down. He was the one who should have died long ago. Now that he was gone, maybe his mother's life would be a little easier. Would someone like him even have a next life? If he did, he would try to be a good person. Memories flickered like an old film reel. Parents, relatives, classmates, friends, Jenna. And then, with a final surge of bitterness, he plunged into darkness. When he didn't know how long she held the pillow down, she hummed the song over and over until her throat was raw and no sound would come out. She held Sean, patting his back like she did when he was a baby. A relieved smile touched her lips. Finally asleep, Sean was dead. Not in prison, not in a car crash, but at the hands of his own mother. From where he came, he had returned. Winnie's emotions were numb. She moved robotically, changing him into clean clothes, replacing the sheets and blankets with fresh ones. She packed up everything he had ever worn or used and threw it out. She cleaned the entire apartment, opened the windows, and sprayed air freshener. She looked at Sean on the bed. With his eyes closed, he just looked like he was sleeping. Winnie went back to her own room and fell asleep. It was the most peaceful, sound sleep she'd had in 2 months. She slept straight through to nightfall. She glanced at her phone. 10:00 p.m. So late. She hadn't made Sean dinner, hadn't cleaned him or changed his bandages. Winnie scrambled out of bed and went to the kitchen. She pulled some pasta from the fridge and put water on a boil. A simple meal of noodles with scallion oil and soy sauce. Sean had trouble digesting, so his portion had to be cooked extra soft. She carried the bowl to his room. There was no foul odor, just the lingering scent of air freshener. Dinner time. She put the bowl on a nightstand and went to wake him, growing impatient when he didn't respond. She shoved his shoulder. "Still sleeping?" "I said it's time to eat." Even though it was the height of summer, Sean's body was ice cold. His already stiff limbs were now rigid. After calling his name a few more times, The reality slowly seeped into her consciousness. Sean was dead. She had suffocated him. Her son. She had killed her son. No wonder he wouldn't wake up. Wendy stood by the bed, staring at him for a long time. So long that the hot noodles on the table grew cold and congealed into a lump. She picked up the bowl and began to eat, forcing the cold, gummy paste down her throat. It felt like vomit in her mouth. She could barely swallow it, and when she finally did, it came right back up. She grabbed some paper towels and knelt on the floor to clean it up. As she wiped, tears started to fall. Humans are strange, contradictory creatures. She was the one who killed him, but now that he was gone, she was filled with regret. The freedom she had imagined was just another kind of prison. The world outside was dark. She was alone in the house. The only family she had in the world was gone. Cole was busy with work, busy with his wife and son and aging dog. The next time he heard news of Wendy, it was on a trending topics feed. Wendy had been committed to a psychiatric hospital for murder. Instead of running, she had ended up staying with Sean's corpse for days. By the time the body was discovered, it had started to decompose. Wendy was found holding the corpse, singing to it, calling it her baby, trying to feed it porridge. But the dead can't swallow, and the gruel just dribbled everywhere. That was the scene the police found when they broke down the door. Some of the more sensitive officers threw up on the spot. Wendy's gaze was vacant, a nonsensical smile on her face. She only reacted when they tried to take the body away. She screamed, thrashed, and demanded to know why they were taking her son. A staff member tried to gently explain, "Ma'am, he's gone." "He's not dead," Wendy muttered to herself. "No, he is dead. I killed him. How could I kill my own son? He's my precious boy. It's his fault. He was a bad boy. If he hadn't messed with Cole Miller, would this have happened to me? I had to kill him so I could have a new start." Wendy had gone insane. She was permanently committed to a psychiatric hospital. At first, Cole thought she might be faking it, so he went to see for himself. She was curled in a corner, her eyes fixed on a strip of blue curtain. One moment she was crying, the next she was laughing, muttering constantly under her breath. Standing outside the room, Cole asked a staff member, "What is she saying?" "She's calling her son's name. I heard he was wearing a blue shirt when he died." So she was looking at the blue curtain and seeing Sean. Sean was dead, but Wendy felt his presence everywhere. He walked back and forth in front of her. He cried that he was in pain. He called for his mom. Wendy got up and began to trace the wall with her hand. When she reached the door, she paused. Through the small glass window, she saw Cole standing outside. A memory flashed in her mind. She was kneeling on the ground, her voice dripping with malice and defiance. "So I have no morals, but I haven't broken any laws. What can you do to me?" "Don't worry," a voice replied. "I got your husband and your son sent to prison. I can get you sent there, too. And if not prison, then hell. One way or another, I'll make sure your whole family is reunited." A jolt, like thunder, shot through her when he scrambled backward and fell to the floor. She clamped her hands over her ears, her eyes wide with terror, and let out a piercing shriek. Her scream set off the other patients. One by one, they joined in a chorus of madness. One patient lunged for Wendy, pinning her to the floor, punching and kicking her, spitting in her face. Wendy scrambled away, crying and begging for mercy. Staff members rushed in to restrain the patients, administering sedatives and medications. Cole watched the entire scene unfold, his expression cold, a faint, ironic smile on his lips. He was just another spectator, like the millions watching a drama online. The saga of Wendy and Sean trended for days, each story more tragic than the last. The public cheered. It was a triumph, they said. Karma had finally come for the wicked. But the truth was, it wasn't karma. It was man-made. From Don and Sean Sullivan's imprisonment 5 years ago to Wendy's descent into madness now, Cole had had a hand in it all. Cole thought, if his other self hadn't crossed over, Wendy and Sean would have been dealt with long ago. Still, this outcome wasn't so bad. The dead were dead, the insane were insane. Sean's ashes were scattered in a sewer. When he was getting beaten daily in a mental hospital. A fate, as they say, worse than death. Cole's birthday was August 28th. Cora cooked a few of his favorite dishes and baked a cake. The family gathered around to light the candles. "Daddy, make a wish," Leo urged. Cole didn't know what to wish for. He had everything now, a successful career, a happy family. So he settled on a simple wish for health and peace. He closed his eyes under the watchful gaze of his wife and son. As soon as he opened them, Leo asked, "Daddy, what did you wish for?" Cole ruffled his hair. "If I tell you, it won't come true." After he blew out the candles, Leo presented his gift. It was an oil painting he had worked on for a long time, a portrait of his mom and dad, himself, and Daisy. "Happy birthday, Daddy." Cole took the painting, running his hand over the slightly rough frame. "Did you make this frame too?" "Yeah. Am I good or what?" "You're amazing." Leo turned to Cora. "Mommy, what did you get Daddy?" Cora handed him a bag, her eyes full of anticipation. "Open it and see." Inside the beautifully wrapped box was an old-fashioned alarm clock. Seeing it, Leo frowned, confused. "Why is it an alarm clock? It looks so old and broken." The moment Cole opened the box, his expression froze. He carefully lifted the clock out. At first, he thought it was a replica. Then he saw the initials he had scratched onto the back as a child. He recognized it immediately. It was the clock from his grandmother's house in Havenwood, the one he had dropped and broken back in May. Leo remembered it too. "Daddy, isn't that the clock from Great-Grandma's house? The one in the country?" "I love it," Cole said, his voice thick. The meaning of the gift far outweighed its value. As a child, Cole hadn't had many toys. This clock had been his companion through childhood and adolescence, from elementary school through middle school. Things from that time seemed to last forever. The creaky bamboo chair, the worn-out straw mat, the chipped bowl, and this now-defunct alarm clock. He hadn't seen it since he'd broken it. He assumed it had been thrown away. He never imagined Cora had secretly saved it, planning this incredible surprise for his birthday. The clock had been meticulously restored. Its internal parts were repaired or replaced. It can now keep time again. Just like when he was a boy. Cole set the alarm for 6 o'clock. "This must have taken a lot of work," he said to Cora. "It's been ready for a while. I just waited to give it to you for the surprise." The clock had been badly damaged. When Cole dropped it, it had shattered, losing parts, its casing chipped and faded. Restoring it wasn't difficult for Cora. Not really. With enough money, any problem could be made small. But this clock, she had restored herself. She had consulted experts, sourced the parts, fabricated new ones, painstakingly repainted the case, slowly bringing it back to life. Some might say it was a waste of time, a self-indulgent gesture. Why not just buy a replica? But a clock from over 20 years ago was long out of production. A modern factory could make something that looked similar, but how could they replicate the marks left by his grandmother's hands? When a new Cole first arrived in this world and learned his grandmother was dead, he had felt like that broken clock, shattered and scattered on the floor. At that moment, Cora had started thinking about how to fix it. Fix the clock. Fix Cole. Get time moving forward again, so it wouldn't be stuck in the past, trapped in pain. For Cole's birthday, everyone was there except for his grandmother. Robert and Eleanor Vance even flew back from overseas to celebrate with him. Jenna's treatment was not going well. In a cruel twist of fate, or perhaps a perfect circle of karma, her injury was in the exact same place as Cole's had been, the right leg just below the knee. But she wasn't as lucky as Cole. The bone had developed necrosis, infection had set in, and the final outcome was amputation. She was currently in a hospital abroad, undergoing rehabilitation. When Cole heard about the amputation, he felt nothing. He was no longer the caretaker who had once put her needs before all else. Listening to a phone call between Eleanor and Cora, he heard that Jenna had changed. She was facing the amputation with stoicism, cooperating with her physical therapy, training diligently without complaint, anxiety, or self-pity. She was patient with the people around her. Compared to the temperamental girl she used to be, it was like she was a completely different person. It seemed like everything was moving in a positive direction. And then something happened to Daisy. A week after Cole's birthday, Daisy collapsed. She fell, and she couldn't get back up. It was a Wednesday. Leo was at an after-school class. Cole and Cora were at work. Only Maria was home. When she found Daisy, she rushed her to the pet hospital, calling Cole and Cora frantically on the way. Cole raced to the hospital. The vet was already working on Daisy. A staff member handed him a form to sign. His hand trembled as he held the pen. The attending vet explained Daisy's condition in detail, repeating much of what he had told them a month ago. She was old, her condition was poor. She had been a country dog, a tough stray who would find her own herds when she was sick. They say mutts are resilient, but very few live to be 15. Daisy had reached a grand old age. The vet's general recommendation was to stop treatment. Surgery was pointless. It would be time-consuming, expensive, and painful. There was no guarantee it would even work, and she could die on the operating table at any time. When they wheeled Daisy out, she was on a 4-drip. She lay motionless on the gurney, just like the many times she had played dead before. Daisy, the old dog, didn't have the strength to stand. All she could manage was a weak thump of her tail. "Don't move, old girl. It's okay." Cole stroked her head and asked the vet, "Doctor, in situations like this, what do other people usually do?" The vet had worked there for years. He had saved countless animals and watched just as many die. In this place, Life and death were constant companions. Empathy was a liability for a doctor, but it always hurt him to see a dog at the end of its life. Most people choose euthanasia. Better a quick end than a prolonged suffering. Cole's world went silent. He knew this day would come. He had thought about it every day, tried to prepare himself, but when the moment of parting actually arrived, he found he couldn't face it with any sort of calm. Daisy seemed to know she was dying. She waited, quiet and still, until a nurse walked by with a plastic water bottle. The sight of the bottle triggered a reaction. She let out a low, whimpering sound. The vet thought she was in pain, but Cole knew. Daisy was thinking of his grandmother. Cole bent down in front of her. "Daisy, do you want to go home and see Grandma? Yes or no?" He held out his left and right hands, letting her choose. Just like so many times before, when he couldn't make a decision, he left it to Daisy. She lifted a paw and placed it on his left hand. "She missed Grandma. If we go home, it will hurt a lot. More than it does now. Even so, you still want to go back? Yes or no?" Daisy decisively pressed her paw onto his left hand again. The nurse who had witnessed their exchange stood frozen. "Can she understand you? I don't know about other dogs, but my Daisy can." Cole looked at the empty bottle in the nurse's hand. "Could I borrow that for a second?" "Of course." The nurse handed it over without a second thought. Daisy's eyes were fixed on the empty bottle. When Cole held it to her mouth, she opened her jaws and gently bit the cap. When his grandmother was alive, she and Daisy would collect empty bottles together. After she was gone, Daisy kept doing it, a habit she maintained until the very end. Even now, with her body racked with pain, she was still thinking about her bottles. When Cora arrived, Cole explained Daisy's condition and his decision. He was going to stop the treatment and take her back to Havenwood to see his grandmother. "I'm coming with you," Cora said instantly. "Don't you have a meeting tomorrow?" "What's more important, a meeting or Daisy? Don't forget, she's our family. She's one of us. And we have to take Leo, too." For Leo, Daisy was his savior, his favorite Uncle Daisy, an irreplaceable character in the story of his life. If he didn't get to see her one last time, it would be a regret he would carry forever. Cole picked Leo up from his class. Seeing his father's somber face, the boy sensed something was wrong. "Daddy, what's wrong? Did something happen?" "Leo, we're going to Great-Grandma's house today." "Right now? Why so suddenly?" "I'm not ready. Should we go empty-handed? Did you pack clothes? I want to bring some snacks." "And what about Uncle Daisy? We're not leaving her, are we?" "Daisy is coming with us." "Then I have to pack some food for Uncle Daisy. He loves his canned food the most." "We're not bringing any of that. The clothes are already packed. We're leaving now." His father's expression was so different from usual. A seed of unease took root in Leo's heart. It felt like his first day of school, a fear of the unknown that made him hesitate to get in the car. That fear lingered until he saw Daisy, and then it burst forth. The dog that always greeted him with a wagging tail was now lying perfectly still. Leo understood instantly. He clutched his father's shirt, tears welling in his eyes. He was more mature than other kids his age. From a young age, his parents had taught him about the value of life, that death was an inevitable part of it. "Daddy, what's wrong with Uncle Daisy? She's gotten old." "Can't she not get old?" Leo's voice choked as he buried his face in his father's side. "I haven't even grown up yet. I haven't even started elementary school. I don't have a job. I haven't earned money to take care of her. We were supposed to take her to the beach, but we never did." By the end, Leo was sobbing uncontrollably, his small body curled into a ball in Cole's arms. In the spacious back of the car, Daisy lay within 4 drip in her leg, a pain relief medication. But on the road, the pain still made her pant, made her vomit. Her eyes were half closed. Leo's loud sobs had subsided to quiet sniffles. This small boy, experiencing his first brush with death, seemed to have grown up a little. He stayed by Daisy's side the whole way. When she threw up, he wiped her mouth with a tissue. When she twitched in pain, he gently stroked her head, talking to her, holding the plastic bottle for her, his eyes reddening again. He held her and whispered, "I don't want you to go 100 times. People grow old and die. So do dogs." She couldn't stay with him until he grew up. It was dark by the time they drove from Denver back to the small town of Havenwood. "Daisy, we'll see Grandma soon. Just hold on a little longer." Cole gently removed the 4 needle from her leg and carried her out of the car. Daisy was in too much pain to stand. To get up the mountain, she would have to be carried. The familiar smells, the sight of the familiar mountains, seemed to revive her. Her ears twitched, her eyes opened wider, and a low whimper escaped her. At his grandmother's grave, Cole gently placed Daisy on the ground in front of the headstone. She hadn't been back since he'd brought her to Denver in May. In the 3 months since, wild greens had grown around the grave. The air was filled with the chirping of crickets, and fireflies blinked in the tall grass. Daisy lay on ground. When she saw the photo on the headstone, her tail, which had been lying limp, gave a weak wag, like a foxtail weed swaying in the breeze. She kicked her legs, as if trying to stand. Cole supported her upper body, and with a surge of effort from her own limbs, Daisy staggered to her feet in front of the grave. She was finally close enough to the photo, close enough to lick it, just as she used to. Her grandmother's scent was long gone, but she knew she was here. A film clouded Daisy's eyes. Just standing had taken all her remaining strength. If Cole hadn't been holding her up, she would have collapsed. Dogs have longing too. After leaving this place, she had thought of her grandmother every day. Now, she was finally back in the place closest to her. She was old and tired. She wanted to lie down and rest. A dying dog will find a quiet place, dig a hole, and bury itself. But she didn't have the strength to dig. From standing to collapsing, Daisy's breathing grew heavier. Her body was like a punctured balloon, slowly deflating. Her limbs twitched uncontrollably. Her eyes opened and closed, looking at Cole and his family again and again, as if memorizing their faces. Leo knelt before her, sobbing, calling Uncle Daisy over and over. Daisy didn't want to leave Leo. She wanted to hold on, to stay, to watch him grow up. If she could, she wanted to be their dog in the next life, too. As if hearing her thoughts, Cole knelt down, fighting back tears, his voice hoarse. Daisy, don't be a dog in the next life. Be a person. A dog's life is too hard. Be a person, so you can grow up with Leo. The night wind carried Cole's words to her ears. Daisy licked his hand, then slowly closed her eyes, just like the countless times she had played dead. Only this time, her eyes didn't open again. Cole knelt on the ground, one knee in the dirt, and gathered Daisy into his arms. She lay stiffly against him, her body growing cold. A firefly floated up from the grass and landed on her still form. His grandmother used to say that when people die, they become stars. But stars are too high too far, so maybe she became a firefly to come and get her. Daisy was buried next to his grandmother. They laid fresh flowers on the small mound of dirt, along with her favorite treats. Leo placed a plastic water bottle inside, her favorite empty bottle. He took a small shovel and pushed the surrounding dirt over her until she slowly disappeared from sight. Leo's eyes were swollen from crying. There were no tears left. Cole picked him up. Daisy has gone to see Great-Grandma. She loved Great-Grandma most of all. Leo buried his head in his father's chest. His mom had told him that real death is being forgotten. As long as he remembered Uncle Daisy, she would never disappear. She would become his guardian angel, watching over him. A big, warm dog was now just a small pile of earth. Memories of Daisy flooded Cole's mind. The first time he saw her, a tiny, dirty, stinking thing in a trash can. She was so good, sitting quietly while he bathed her, lying peacefully in his arms, watching over him as he did his homework, bringing him a flashlight when it got dark, waiting for him on the road, chasing the car for miles when he left, being the first to greet him when he came home. The dog who rolled over for belly rubs, who played dead for treats, who helped Grandma collect bottles, who saved Leo. The memories swelled like bubbles in his mind, expanding until his chest felt tight, his heart squeezed as if by an invisible hand. His grandmother was gone. Now Daisy was gone, too. She was never just an ordinary yellow dog. She was the family's hero. She was their family. Leo planted a foxtail weed on the small mound. It swayed gently in the wind. He said it was Daisy's tail. I'm a big yellow dog. When I was very small, someone threw me away in a trash can. It smelled like rotten things. I was trapped in a plastic bag, and it was dark and hot, and I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die in there, but then my dad appeared. He was like a hero from the sky. He rescued me from the trash can, gave me water and food, and even gave me a bath. I followed him with my 4 legs. Wherever he went, I went. If he tried to leave me, I would gently bite the cuff of his pants. In the end, my dad didn't leave me. He took me home. There was an old lady with white hair in his house. Dad called her Grandma, so I called her Grandma too. Woof woof. Grandma was a good person. She cooked all kinds of delicious things. I liked the sweet potatoes from the garden, the steamed rice she made, and the sweet, fragrant corn. She even cooked meat for me every day. In a short time, I became round and chubby, not the skinny little yellow dog I was before. Dad gave me a name. He called me Daisy, but Grandma liked to call me Goldie. Dad had to go to school. Every day, I would walk him to the end of the road, and then I would go back to that spot to meet him when school was over. His backpack always had books and also soft, fragrant bread for me. Slowly, Dad started coming home less. Grandma said Dad was in high school and had to live at the dorm. He would come back once a week. How long is a week? When Dad wasn't there, I would help Grandma collect plastic bottles and cardboard. Grandma would use the money from the bottles to buy me meat and chicken legs. Grandma didn't eat much. Most of the food she cooked ended up in my doggy belly. I grew bigger and bigger, taller and taller. Some other dogs wanted me to be their leader, but I said no. I just wanted to help Grandma collect bottles. And if I got hurt, Grandma would be sad. I didn't want to make her sad. Life went on like that. Dad went from coming home once a week to once every 6 months. But no matter when he came back, I would go to the end of the road at the right time every day and wait for him. The moment I smelled him, I would be the first to run to his side. My dad was still the same. He always brought me delicious things. His suitcase would be full of canned food, sausages, and kibble. Kibble wasn't very good. Not as good as Grandma's steamed sweet potatoes. If I could, I want to eat Grandma's cooking forever, even the bitter melon she made. But then Grandma fell down in the yard. I was so scared I ran in circles around her. I wanted to carry her, but I was too small. If only I was a person like Dad, with strong arms. Then I could pick Grandma up. Grandma clutched her chest, lying on the ground. Her eyes were like dusty glass beads. She tried to lift her hand, and like so many times before, she stroked my head. Goldie, if I'm gone, what will you do? Gone? Gone where? Like Dad, to school, or to work. If she left, would she still want me? I didn't want them to leave. If they left, I might become a stray dog again. I didn't know how to call for help. I could only bark loud. I ran and barked, trying to get someone to come and help my grandma. The village head came. I watched them put Grandma in a car. The car had 4 wheels, and it drove away. I chased after it as fast as I could, but I couldn't keep up. I ran with my mouth open, my tongue hanging out, panting. I licked my bleeding paws and kept going, following her scent. Grandma's scent disappeared into the air. I looked at the strange, big road, and in the darkness I turned back home. I held a flashlight in my mouth and waited at the end of the road, hoping to see Dad and Grandma come back. That night, Dad didn't come. Grandma didn't come. From dusk till dawn, and from dawn till dusk again, I went from sitting to lying down, my eyes fixed on the horizon. Mrs. Gable brought me food, my favorite chicken legs, and canned food. I was so hungry, but I couldn't eat. Finally, Grandma came back. She was carried back. Her body was cold, and she was silent. I followed them with my wobbly legs. I watched them take down the red lanterns from the eaves and replace them with white ones. A cold wind blew, and I lifted my nose. The air smelled of sadness. I didn't like this smell. I followed Grandma's scent and lay down by the coffin. My ears were pricked up, and I sat up at the slightest sound. The coffin was heavy. I wanted to push it open to see Grandma, to wake her up. But I'm a dog. I can't speak human words. When they took Grandma up the mountain, my dad finally came back. He had a limp, and he smelled like strong medicine. My dad smelled sadder and more hopeless than anyone else. I went to him and licked his hand. Grandma ended up on that mountain, the one I had been to many times. But this time, the mountain felt especially high, and the path felt especially long. I walked among the people, watching the coffin that held my grandma. My dad had to be helped up the mountain. His leg was hurt. He couldn't kneel, so he just stood there, motionless. I walked up. A deep, wide hole was in front of me. They put Grandma inside. Then they covered it with yellow dirt, and the coffin was gone. The sudden sound of firecrackers startled me. I instinctively hid in the bushes. When the noise stopped, I slowly came out. In the smoke, I thought I saw Grandma. My dad cried. I don't think I had ever seen him cry before. He cried so hard. His tears were like the big rain we had last week. They just kept falling. There was a very pretty person standing next to him. I didn't know who she was, but I knew she was a good person. She was a little like my dad. She had a warm feeling about her. She would pet me and talk to me and bring me delicious food. She was the one who brought my grandma back. She was the one who brought my dad back. After my dad came, she stayed by his side. In our dog world, being there for someone is the best kind of love. The house became emptier. After all the noise came a deep silence, like after the firecrackers are all gone. My grandma was hidden in that pile of yellow dirt. I could still smell her. Every day, I would go there and watch over her. I couldn't see Grandma, so I would look at her picture. My life continued. I ate when I was hungry, drank when I was thirsty, and collected bottles. I collected them one by one. When I was tired, I would go to the mountain to sleep. When I was close to Grandma, I could dream of her. In my dreams, I heard her ask, "Goldie, if I'm gone, what will you do?" I licked her face and said, "Don't worry, Grandma. I'll collect bottles to feed myself." The leaves on the mountain turned from green to yellow. The flowers bloomed and fell. Day after day, year after year. One day, my dad came in his car and took me to the city. The house was big. There were toys, all kinds of good food, good people, my dad. But I still miss my grandma. After I left Grandma, I didn't dream of her anymore. I want to go home, back to the place where I grew up. I wanted to be with Grandma and keep collecting bottles. When no one was looking, I slipped out. This place was too big, with too many roads. I couldn't find my way home. Maybe my dad understood what I was trying to say, because he drove me back. When he dropped me off, he cried. When he left in the car, I saw him off, just like when he used to go to school. He ran in front, and I chased behind. Before, he couldn't outrun me. Now, I couldn't catch him. I was old. I didn't have the strength to run anymore. I ran for a little while, and then I stopped. I watched the big car disappear from my sight, and my eyes felt wet. Woof, woof, woof. Dad, I can take care of myself. Don't worry. The people in the village were good to me. The village head would bring me food. The neighbor lady built me a doghouse. Old Mrs. Henderson often brought me water. They would even save their bottles for me. They would give me big chicken legs to eat, even if I didn't trade bottles for them. It was nice. I could feel my body getting old, getting sick. I believed it wouldn't be long before I could see Grandma again. But before that, I couldn't rest easy about my dad and my little master. My dad got married and had a child. When the baby was born, he brought him home for me to see. His name was Leo. When he was born, he was smaller than me. He grew up slowly, just like I did, from gurgling to speaking. The first time he saw me, he called me Uncle Daisy. I never thought I would go back to the big city with my dad again. This time, I didn't run away, because I wanted to spend the last bit of my life with them, watching over them. What is the meaning of a dog's life? My neighbor, Snowy, says the meaning of a dog's life is to guard the house for its master. Bruiser says the meaning of a dog's life is to be the boss and claim territory. As for me, protecting my family is the greatest meaning of my dog life. When the car accident happened, I stood in front of Leo. He called me Uncle Daisy. As his uncle, of course I had to protect him, just like my dad protected me when I was little. The glass in my fur hurt, but I was so happy because I saved Leo and he wasn't hurt. I went from little Goldie to old Daisy. My sense of smell started to fade, my eyes grew cloudy, and my mind wasn't what it used to be. I forgot many things, but I never forgot to wait for Dad to come home. Before, I would sit on the road. Now, I lay by the front door so that the moment he opened it, he would see me. Leo liked to sing to me. Dark, dark sky hangs low, bright, bright stars follow, little bugs fly, who are you thinking of? My body got weaker and weaker. The pain kept me from sleeping, from eating. I knew I was going to die soon. I walked around the house, went into the yard, and found a good spot. I started to dig, digging with all my might. After I dug a small hole, I laid down in it. I only got halfway through digging the hole before I collapsed. The world spun. I twitched uncontrollably. Blood trickled from my nose. When I woke up, I was at the hospital. I saw my dad. He asked me if I missed Grandma. I tried my best to lift my paw to tell him that I did. I wanted to go back and see her. I lay in the car, swaying back and forth on the road. I threw up in the car. I looked at them guiltily and tried to curl into a smaller ball. Leo cried. He was very sad. I wanted to tell him I was okay, but I couldn't speak. It was hard to even wag my tail. I arrived at a familiar place. It was late, the sky was full of stars, and the air was filled with the sounds of frogs and crickets. Dad picked me up. The thought of seeing Grandma soon made my eyes widen and my tail wag a little. We came to the familiar grave. I looked at Grandma's picture on the headstone, and like in the old days, I stuck out my tongue and licked it. After Grandma died, I would often have illusions that she was still there. She was sifting beans under the eaves, drying grain in the courtyard, cooking in the kitchen, knitting under the lamp, collecting bottles on the roadside, buying me a big chicken leg at the market. She would stroke my head and look at the tall apple tree and say she missed my dad. I blinked, and the Grandma in front of me disappeared, becoming just a lonely grave. I hate Grandma because Grandma is in the dirt and won't talk to me. I love Grandma because Grandma never really left me. I let out a whimper. The corners of my eyes were wet. I didn't understand. I'm just a dog. Why am I crying? My dad's hand, which was holding me up, was trembling. I looked back at him, and through my blurry vision, I saw tears on his face. I wanted to lick them away, but I didn't have the strength. My breathing grew heavier. Each breath was like a needle in my lungs. I slowly pulled my tongue back in, and my open mouth slowly closed. I looked at them again and again, trying to burn their faces into my heart. My dad rescued me from trash can. He is my favorite person. Cora, beside him, is my mom. Even though we met late, I still love her. And their child, Leo, is my favorite kid. Mr. Vance, who likes to hug me while watching TV. Mrs. Vance, who always buys me toys. Maria, who cooks delicious food. The village head, the neighbor ladies. Grandma said that when people die, they become stars in the sky. What about dogs? I want to be a star too, so I can be with Grandma in the sky forever. My dad always said I was smart, the smartest dog in the world. I thought so too. I could do everything other dogs could do, and I could do things other dogs couldn't. My best trick was playing dead, lying on the ground without moving. So this time, let me perform for you one last time. I died. I died in a sky full of fireflies. Grandma came down from the sky. She became a firefly to come and get me. Good boy, Goldie. You've collected so many bottles. You've worked so hard all these years I've been gone. Come on, let's go sell them, and I'll buy you a big chicken leg. Woof, woof, woof. I ran to her, wagging my tail, and jumped into her arms. I licked her face and said, Grandma, I love chicken legs the most. My dad buried me next to Grandma, so I could sleep with her forever. Leo was worried I would be hungry, so he packed a lot of snacks for me. He planted a foxtail weed on the small mound of dirt. When the wind blows, it wags. I'm a dog, a very ordinary dog. I have a good temper, and I've never bitten anyone. I can guard a house, catch mice, and play dead. My name is the same color as my fur. I am Daisy, a common sight in the village. After Daisy left, the house became much quieter. Everywhere, there were traces of her. Her food bowl, her leash hanging on the wall, the bed she slept in, the unfinished bag of kibble, the toys she chewed up, and the dog hair on the clothes. When Cole got home, he packed up all of Daisy's things. He was fine at first, but when he saw the small, half-dug hole in the yard, his chest tightened, a stone lodging in his throat. Daisy hadn't lived there long, but she had accumulated so much stuff. A mountain of toys and treats. Every time Leo went out, he'd buy something for Daisy. Cora and her mother were the same. Even Robert Vance treated the dog like a grandchild, always bringing her gifts. A little here, a little there. He never realized how much it was until he started cleaning it up. Some things were brand new, never even used. Cole packed everything up and donated it to a local animal shelter. Seeing all the abandoned dogs, he made a large donation to the shelter's account. Life had to go on. Work was work, school was school. But when he came home after a long day, Cole would instinctively look at the spot opposite the shoe cabinet. Daisy was always there to greet him. Sometimes, lost in thought, he would call her name. After dinner, he'd think about taking her for a walk. When he was cooking, he'd automatically portion out a serving for her. He'd find himself staring at dogs on the street that looked like her. Cole went through the home security footage, editing together all the clips of Daisy and saving them to a private account. When he saw the footage of her in the yard, digging a hole to bury herself, the tears came, hot and uncontrollable. He propped his head up with one hand, his eyes red, a vein throbbing in his temple. How could he not be sad? That was Daisy, the dog who grew up with him. The dog who was always there to welcome him home. She wasn't just a dog. She was his family. Autumn passed. Winter arrived. A year flew by. It had been more than half a year since Cole had arrived in this world. For New Year's this year, the family decided to go back to Havenwood. They asked Mrs. Gable to air out the house in advance. They would buy groceries and other supplies themselves when they arrived. New Year's in the countryside was lively. Unlike the city, fireworks weren't banned here. The sound of firecrackers greeted them as they drove into the village. After dropping off their luggage, Cole took his wife and son to the town market. They planned to stay for 2 weeks, so they needed plenty of food and supplies. Leo loved spending the holiday in the country. He clamored for big red lanterns, fireworks, and firecrackers. Cora, ever organized, had a shopping list prepared. She went down the list, item by item, ensuring nothing was missed. They filled the trunk of the car to bursting. On the way out of town, they stopped at a flower shop. Mrs. Gable, who ran the shop, saw Leo and gave him a small red envelope with a crisp bill inside. Leo took it shyly, blushing as he said, "Happy New Year." Back at the house, the family started to decorate. Cole climbed a ladder to hang up decorations. Leo stood below, watching nervously. "Daddy, be careful. Don't slip." As he put up the long banner over the door, Cora directed him from below. "A little to the left. It's crooked. A little higher. Yes, right there. Okay, put it up. Be careful, don't fall." With the decorations and lanterns up, the house instantly felt festive. Hearing that Cole's family was back, the village head showed up, carrying a mountain of gifts. Freshly butchered chickens and ducks, pork from a New Year's pig, cured bacon and sausages, vegetables fresh from the garden, and a bag of oranges. The village head's generosity was unchanged. When Cole refused, he just tossed the things inside, gave a wave, and ran off, not forgetting to stuff another red envelope into Leo's pocket on his way out. Cole sighed, amused, and started picking things up. Leo held a sausage in each hand. "Daddy, this smells so good. Then we'll have sausage for dinner tonight." Cole sorted through the bags of vegetables. "We'll cook a fish and maybe braise some pork shoulder. That way we'll have a complete meal and fish for prosperity." That's what your great-grandma used to do. Will we be able to eat all that? Cora asked. We'll just make small portions of each dish. Cole set aside the ingredients for their dinner. The once empty refrigerator was now packed, with some items not even fitting. In this weather, they didn't have to worry about leftovers. They could take them back to the city. The only worry was that the village head would bring more. Cole made a mental note to leave in the middle of the night when it was time to go, without telling anyone. On New Year's Eve, the TV was tuned to the national broadcast. Cole sat on the sofa, curious to see how it had changed in 5 years. He didn't recognize half the hosts. After a few performances, Leo was clamoring to go outside and set off fireworks. The moment they stepped out, the night erupted in a series of bangs. One family started, and soon others joined in, painting the sky with bursts of color. Leo covered his ears, his dark eyes reflecting the light. Daddy, let's do ours. They had bought a huge box of fireworks. In the spacious yard, Cole was in charge of lighting them. He held a lighter and turned to see Cora holding Leo under the eaves. I'm starting. He lit the fuse, then ran to Cora's side, putting his arm around her as they watched the show. As a brilliant firework exploded overhead, he leaned in and whispered in her ear, I love you, my wife. His voice was almost lost in the crackle and boom, but Cora heard him clearly. She turned to him. I love you so much, too. Suddenly arriving here, he had gained so much, but they had also missed so much. Like a wedding, Cole took Leo from Cora's arms, holding him with one hand, and took Cora's hand with the other. He rubbed his thumb over the wedding band on her ring finger. He bent his head and kissed the back of her hand. Cora looked at him, surprised. What is it? Cole looked at her intently. I want to propose to you. I want to have another wedding with you. Cora couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. Whatever you want, we can do. Not having a real wedding had always been a small regret. Cole's mind was already racing. He was a man of action. What kind of wedding do you like? A beach, a meadow, a field of flowers. Anything. Cora thought for a moment. As long as it's with you, anything is fine. When Leo heard his parents were planning a wedding, he got excited. Mommy, Daddy, are you getting married? Can I be the ring bearer? Of course. That spot is reserved for you. And I want to invite all my friends to be ring bearers with me. Flowers will bloom along the path, and so will the road ahead. Life unfolds at its own pace, with its own answers. The end of one chapter is also a new beginning. The clock struck midnight. The sky filled with even more fireworks. Leo, who had been a little scared at first, grew braver with Cole's encouragement. He held a sparkler and faced the mountain. Great-Grandma, Uncle Daisy, are you doing okay over there? Happy New Year. That night, Leo slept in his own room, exhausted from the day's excitement. After the couple had washed up, they lay in bed, fingers intertwined. The faint smell of gunpowder still lingered in the air. Cora suddenly rolled over, snuggling against Cole's arm. Do you remember the first time we met? Edo. Cora decided to test him. Tell me about it. Where did we first meet? If you get it wrong, your punishment is no sleep tonight. It was a rainy night. I was delivering food. You gave me an umbrella. Cole recalled the scene and smiled. He looked down and saw the look of astonishment on Cora's face. Why that expression? Don't tell me you forgot. I didn't forget. I didn't think you'd remember. She thought he would say their first meeting was at the office. Of course I remember. You gave me an umbrella, and it sheltered me from the rain. I kept that umbrella for a long time. I haven't seen it in a while. It's probably broken by now. Cole thought of something funny and chuckled. It feels a bit like a fairy tale, a damsel and a knight in shining armor. Last question. Cora curled up in his arms. If you could go back in time, would you come find me? Cole held her tight, his answer immediate. Of course. The first thing I'd do is call you. I'd find any way I could to see you. Cole's hand was between the headboard and Cora, his fingers tangling in her hair. I have a question for you, Tim. Cora leaned against his chest, listening to the strong, steady beat of his heart. Ask away. When did you start to fall for me? You might not believe this, but I had a good feeling about you from the very first time I saw you. But if you're asking when I fell in love with you, it was probably after you started working for me, when we were spending so much time together. The lunches you'd prepare for me, the water you'd hand me at just the right moment, the fact that you always had candy in your pocket, a dedication to your work. Have you ever read Haruki Murakami's colorless Tsukuru Tazaki and his Years of Pilgrimage? Cora propped herself up, resting her chin on her hand on his chest. My emotional awareness was like a house with all the doors and windows shut tight. The sound of love's footsteps would pass by, back and forth, and I heard them, but I just thought it was a passerby. By the time I realized I was in love with you, you were already with Jenna. You weren't by my side anymore. Day and night were both 24 hours long, but when you were there, time flew. When you were gone, it crawled. After I saw you with Jenna, I warned myself. I told myself I couldn't have any feelings for you. You were my employee. You were my sister's fiancé. I tried to restrain myself. Thinking back on it now, how we ended up together was a series of accidents, but it was also fate. As Cora finished speaking, a ripple went through Cole. He glanced at the vase of flowers they'd bought earlier. Tucked among the winter-blooming jasmine were a few sprigs of mistletoe. Aren't you supposed to kiss when you see mistletoe? Cole's arms tightened around her, and in one smooth motion, he rolled her onto her back. Cora's breath hitched. She instinctively grabbed the collar of his shirt. The next second, his lips were on hers, heavy and demanding. His hand slipped inside her nightgown. She wasn't wearing anything underneath, and his warm palm made direct contact with her skin. Cora shivered, then arched into his touch. His hand was filled with her softness. Fresh from her bath, she was warm and smelled sweet. Cole pulled the comforter over both of them, creating a warm, dark cocoon. In the enclosed space, their body heat intensified. Cole's kisses traveled downwards, his breathing deep and steady, his mind blissfully empty. A familiar, unspoken rhythm had long been established between them. Urgent, eager, a slow exploration of life's deepest pleasures. Cole undid the buttons of her gown. In a daze of pleasure, Cora's hand drifted downwards, searching for him. On the first day of the new year, Cole was up early, making sweet rice dumplings and paying respect to the kitchen gods of the old house. Cora woke up not long after. She was a little sore from a night before. She stretched her limbs, wrapped the blanket around herself as she sat up and got dressed. She put on some light makeup. The recent surge of hormones had given her skin a healthy glow. Stepping outside, the cold air was a bracing shock to her system. She saw Cole in the kitchen and tiptoed up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Happy New Year, honey." Cole relaxed into her embrace, a gentle smile on his face. "Happy New Year." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a red envelope. "This is for you. I get one too. In our family, everyone gets one, no matter how old you are." The amount inside wasn't large, just a crisp bill for good luck. Cora took the envelope and kissed his cheek. "Thank you, honey." Cole patted her lower back. "I made dumplings. Go ahead and eat. I'm going to wake up Leo." Leo was woken by the sound of firecrackers. He groggily opened his eyes to see his dad walking in with a red envelope. The sight of it made him sit up immediately, kneeling on the bed with his hands clasped together like a begging bear at the zoo. "Daddy, wishing you wealth and prosperity. Now, give me the goods. Happy New Year." Cole handed him the envelope. "Get dressed and come eat." "What's for breakfast?" "Sweet dumplings." It was the coldest time of the year. A thin layer of ice had formed on the puddles outside. Cole helped Leo get dressed in layers, bundling him up until he was a small, round ball, then adding a scarf and gloves for good measure. The round, white dumplings floated in the bowl. Leo ate 6 of them. After breakfast, they went to visit the graves. Someone had already cleared the weeds. The area was clean and tidy, with just a few reeds left on the mounds. Next to the main graves was the small pile of dirt that was Daisy. The foxtail weed Leo had planted there had grown into a small clump. Leo took a cloth and carefully wiped each headstone. When he was done, he stood quietly and watched his dad light the incense. The flames of the burning paper money flickered in the cold wind, then died down to a pile of ash. "You can pay your respects now," Cole said. Without being told, Leo had already knelt, his hands clasped together, murmuring piously, "Great-grandma, great-grandpa, grandma, Uncle Daisy, please bless our family with good health. Bless me to grow taller. Bless me to get 100 on my tests. Bless me to get a red envelope every day. Bless me to get more handsome." He went on for a full minute, treating the gravesite like a wishing well. "All right, that's enough," Cole said, ruffling his hair. "If you're too greedy, none of them will come true." "Then I'll just make one wish," Leo quickly amended. "Please bless our family with good health, and don't let us get sick." He hated getting shots and taking medicine more than anything. After he was done, Leo bowed his head to the headstones, getting a smudge of ash on his forehead. Then Cole and Cora knelt and bowed 3 times. They waited until the incense had burned down before turning to leave. Leo walked between them, holding his father's hand with his left and his mother's with his right. "Mommy, do you think Great-Grandma and Uncle Daisy can see us?" "If you believe they can, then they can," Cora said. Leo turned to his father. "Daddy, can you tell me more stories about when you were little? You want to hear my old stories? Anything. How you found Uncle Daisy, about Great-Grandma, and about you and Mommy. How did you and Mommy meet? And how did you get married?" Children are curious about everything. Cole paused and exchanged a look with Cora. "Well, I'll have to think about that." Cole had compiled all the information about his past from the private investigator. The night he finished reading it, he had a dream. In the dream, he was hit by a truck. The car crumpled, caved in. His right leg was pinned, trapped. The air was thick with the smell of gasoline and blood. The sounds of chaos were like a swarm of insects drilling into his ears, eating away at his brain. The crash happened in an instant. The driver had reacted as quickly as possible, but he couldn't avoid the truck's second impact. The first collision threw Cole's head against the window. The second one crushed him. The pain was so intense it became numbness. He slumped in his seat, his vision blurring. He was dying. He couldn't die. If he died, what would happen to his grandmother? With his last bit of strength, Cole pulled out his phone. He found Jenna's number and called. It was a call for help, a plea for her to comfort his grandmother, to tell the old woman not to worry. The phone rang for a long time. Just as Cole was about to lose consciousness, the call was finally answered. Jenna. He was cut off before he could say another word. Cole, I want to get married. Let's just end it here. Before Cole could respond, she hung up. The world was a cacophony of noise, a constant ringing in his ears. His vision went from blurry to black. A violent spasm racked his chest, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Grandma. His grip on the phone loosened. With a soft thud, it fell into the gap between the seats. After hanging up, Jenna didn't feel the relief she had expected. Instead, a sense of unease settled over her. She was already in Sean's car. Sean, are you sure this is okay? Just leaving like this? Sean offered a placating smile. Don't worry, it'll be fine. You're pulling back from the brink, turning a new leaf. Think about it, the gap between you and Cole. You're from two different worlds. If you married him, you'd have to endure people's scorn for the rest of your life. Better to run now than to get divorced later. Jenna clenched the seatbelt. I'm worried about my parents. Even if your parents blame you, it will only be temporary. You're their daughter. They'll always be on your side. Sean had already convinced her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have agreed to run away with him on her wedding day. But now a strange sense of panic was creeping in, a feeling like she was about to lose something important. She stared out the window, Cole's face flashing in her mind. What was he trying to say when he called? A warm hand covered hers. She flinched away instinctively. Sean's hand hovered awkwardly in the air. He forced a smile. Jenna, what's wrong? Nothing, she said. I was just spacing out. Jenna, I've never been able to forget you. The thought of you marrying another man. It kills me. Sean took her hand, his voice full of emotion. From now on, let's start over, okay? In his mind, Jenna's wedding to Cole was just a ploy to get him back. Playing hard to get. He understood. Their connection was special. They had known each other for years, a secret high school romance. On again, off again, so many times it only deepened their bond. They were each other's first love, and everyone knows you never forget your first love. They had gone to school together, read the same books, listened to the same songs. He had taken her street racing, bought her flowers, planned surprises. They had gone bungee jumping, scuba diving, skydiving. Anything for the adrenaline rush, the thrill of a racing heart. The more thrilling the adventure, the harder it was to forget. He was sure Jenna couldn't forget him. If she had, she wouldn't have agreed to run away with him after just a few words. And crashing a wedding to steal the bride? That was a thrill in itself. After breaking up with Jenna, Sean had dated a few other women, but it was just for fun. None of them compared to Jenna. Beautiful, wealthy heiresses like her were rare. The rich ones weren't as pretty, the pretty ones didn't have her figure, and the ones with the right family background and looks weren't as easy to manipulate. All things considered, Jenna was his perfect match. After going to all the trouble of crashing the wedding, Sean didn't want any interruptions. He reached out and stroked her hair, just like he used to. Don't overthink it. From any angle, I'm the best one for you. With me, at least no one will gossip about you. Just think of this as a spontaneous road trip. Let's just have fun. Jenna swallowed her discomfort and nodded numbly. In the 10 minutes they had been driving, Jenna had checked her phone 10 times. Sean frowned and held out his hand. Give me your phone. Jenna clutched it tighter. Why? She hated letting other people handle her personal things. Relax, I'm not going to look at it. I just want to distract you, help you relax. Can't you see how tense you are? If we're going to have fun, let's really have fun. Don't let anything spoil the mood. Jenna had to admit she was tense. Under Sean's urging, she handed over her phone. Sean silenced it and put it in his bag. He had already booked their flights. They were right on time for the airport. Numerous calls and texts came in for Jenna, but Sean ignored them all. He didn't tell her, just switch the phone to airplane mode. Sean glanced at the time, a malicious thought crossing his mind. Right about now, the groom should be arriving at the hospital. Jenna, oblivious to everything, boarded the plane with Sean. At the hospital, Cole was rushed into the emergency room. There was someone from Cora's team in the wedding procession. The moment the accident happened, they had contacted her. Robert and Eleanor handled the scene, while Cora rushed to the hospital alone. Family of the patient? Cora stepped forward. How is he? The doctor looked at her. Are you family? I am. Cora paused. He's my brother-in-law. Doctor, what's his condition? It's not good. The injuries are extensive. The most severe is his right leg. I need you to sign these forms. One of them was a surgical consent form. The doctor explained Cole's condition in detail. Cora's mind was a chaotic mess, her hands shaking. Her normally clear head was filled with a thick fog. She gripped the pen, shook it, and pressed the tip to the paper. She recognized all the words on the form, but strung together, they made no sense. She couldn't understand a word the doctor was saying. Cora took a deep breath, trying to suppress the dull ache in her chest. She had signed countless documents in her life, but this was the first time her signature had been so ugly, so shaky. The pen in her hand felt like a knife. The doctor said Cole had a head injury, and there was a chance he might not wake up, that he could end up in a vegetative state. The doctor also said Cole's right leg was severely damaged, and amputation was a possibility. He told her to prepare herself. But how could she? He had been perfectly fine just that morning. How could this have happened? The truck driver who caused the accident had been detained. His story was that he had been drinking. Drunk driving causing injury wasn't a capital offense. He'd serve a few years in prison at most. Cole gets into a car accident, and Jenna disappears at the same time. The bride and groom both vanish from their own wedding. Cora didn't believe for a second that these events were unrelated. A nurse brought her a bag containing Cole's jacket and his phone. The screen was cracked, the case stained with blood. It needed a password. Cora tried Cole's birthday, and it opened on the first try. The first contact in his phone was Jenna. He had called her at the time of the accident. The call had lasted only 10 seconds. When Jenna answered Cole's call, did she know he had been in a car crash?